It being 6:30 p.m. on December 18th, this meeting of the Brockton Conservation Commission is called to order. This meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with Governor Healy's open meeting provisions updated in March of 2023, which extends certain COVID-19 changes until March 31st, 2025. Real-time public participation and comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing Zoom virtual meeting software. If you wish to comment during a public input portion of the meeting, please use the raise your hand function to be addressed at the appropriate time. For those joining by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. Please note that all comments being made are public record and should be conducted in a way that is respectful of others. Should personal or inflammatory remarks be made, the host reserves the right to mute the speaker. A copy of this recording will be available on the City of Brockton webpage. All votes will be done by roll call vote to ensure count accuracy. In order to establish quorum, I ask that each commissioner please state their first and last name for the record.
Ruby Clay.
Curtis.
Lily Green.
And Justin is not a...
No, I just promoted Justin to a panelist, so he might be a moment joining.
Okay, so Joyce Boris is here, and as soon as he unmutes.
Justin Talbot.
Justin Talbot, great. So quorum, we do have quorum. Thank you. Hi, Justin. Merry Christmas. Okay. So before we begin, I'd like to announce the continuations in case there are members of the public present. The continuations that will be made from December 18th until the next meeting, which is January 22nd. Is that correct?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Yep. Are number 9, 1005 Belmont Street, number 12, 549 Copeland Street, number 13, 30 Intervale Street, number 14, 0 Lawton Avenue, and number 15, 136 Perkins Avenue. So those have all been continued at the applicant's request to January 22nd. First item on the agenda is the acceptance of minutes from the November 20th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes? Any questions, recommended changes, or anything? If not, okay. I entertain a motion then, please, to accept those minutes as read.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from November 20th.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Green, aye.
And Voris, aye. That motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is our new filings. Number 2 is a notice of intent at 125 Southland Terrace. It's an addition, a home addition. Kyle is the applicant here.
Yes, and I've promoted Javier to a panelist.
Thank you.
I'm here.
Good evening, Javier. How are you?
Hi, I'm trying to figure out how to get this camera to work.
Welcome.
Welcome. Oh, yeah, I see it. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
So it's Brianna and myself.
Hi, Brianna.
Hello.
Welcome. Okay, so would you like to tell us what your story is about what you're proposing for Southland Terrace?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Before we begin the public hearing, we should confirm that public notice has been sent, and you often ask about the department DEP file number.
Okay. Then I will do that. Has a DEP file number been obtained for this particular applicant, and have a butter notice has been sent?
So yes, we have received a DEP file number. DEP did include some technical comments. Basically, they just stated that the department, DEP, did not receive the abutter list, the certified abutters list. We did, the Brockton Conservation Commission did, so we'll just make sure that Mass DEP does get a copy of that, but their technical comment has been addressed.
Okay.
And then secondly, we have received proof of mailing for the abutter notification.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So
I don't know where that leaves us.
excuse me?
What do we do? What was the question that you have posed?
No, if you have just a summary of what it is that you expect to be doing.
We're doing an addition in the backyard.
Uh-huh.
The addition will be done by pile screws. Um, the diagram and the spacing has been submitted to you guys in the application. Yeah, there we go. So in this drawing, your view where the red lines at, the red line that's closer to the chains link, the addition is going to be in between those red lines. So
Right.
right attached to the house. So we've gotten, well, I don't know if we gotten the approval, but we are away from the conservation that was in question.
Away from the area that's a sensitive area, you mean?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. Um, Kyle, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Javier. So as we look at the screen that I'm sharing now, this is the submitted site plan for this project. The blue area up here with the triangles with the dash line, that is an open drainage ditch, and it is located off the property in question. There is a stockade fence on the property line surrounding the entire backyard of the property. So that stockade fence uh, exists between the grassed backyard area of the property and this drainage ditch in the backyard. However, the drainage ditch itself has bank, and so what we're looking at here are the 25, the 50, and the 100-foot buffer to the bank of this kind of open drainage ditch back here. It does go into a culvert here, and so that's why the line kind of stops right here. So. As the property owner has mentioned, they are planning on adding a home addition to the back of the property. That addition will be between the 50 and the 25-foot buffer zones. As you can see here, there's the red line, and then the magenta line is the 50-foot buffer zone. They propose the installation of erosion controls around the work area. I guess that's really the entire backyard is already grass. They're not taking down any trees or anything for the home addition here. Overall, this is a fairly straightforward filing. And I guess that's a good summary of the plan here. Does the commission have any questions about the plan as depicted here?
I just can't really read the contour lines. Can you tell me what the elevations are on the contour lines?
Looks like we've got 73, 72, and 71 here. So I imagine this would be 74, but I'm not seeing a number there. So the backyard isn't extremely sloped. There is a slight slope going back, but I don't anticipate any heavy erosion or anything associated with this project. As Javier mentioned, when they're doing the foundation for the addition, they're going to use like screw pilings for that. And I'm not exactly familiar with what that. I mean, I know what a screw does, but does that limit the amount of excavation required, Javier? What's the purpose of the screw pilings?
The purpose of it's no excavations at all. All you're doing is just screwing the piles into the ground. So that way I'm not left with a big pile of dirt or grass all over the place.
So then you build on those you make
Yeah,
the
so
foundation on the pilings?
so on the piles, they look like a big screw. At the end of the pile, it has like a U clamp that will hold the foundation of what we're building for the addition. So it will hold the LVLs right on it, and it's put in by pressure. So that way, um, depending on the size of what we're building, it's required. There's a requirement per each pile to hold a weight. So once the math is, well, my math came up to 12 piles. So I will need 12 piles in total screwed into the ground to hold up the weight to have the addition.
Will there be a crawl space between the ground or the pilings?
No.
No crawl space.
No crawl space.
Is there like a slab that's poured onto the top of the pilings?
No slab is needed. All we have to do is for our protection is grading off the grass put a black rubber top over it with crushed stones, and that's it.
Huh. Okay, thank you. And I can't quite read the dimensions of the addition that you're doing.
The dimension of the addition, hold on, I'll get that to you right now. Bear with me.
No, of course.
This is, on the plan, it says here 12 feet by 30.3 feet.
Yes, that's it.
12 by 30.3. Oh, that's a good size. Okay. Okay, thank you.
And then, so all the proposed work is within the buffer zone only. We're not affecting any resource areas directly. In my agent report, I do kind of review this entire filing, but I think that the commission has all the information they need to issue an order of conditions for this property tonight.
And I just do have one more question. You have a shed there. That shed is within the 25 feet, so it's between like the 25-foot zone and the actual, protected wetland. What do you keep in that shed?
In that shed is I have the kids' bikes, my bicycle, stuff that don't fit in this house.
Yeah.
I have the snow blower there. I have
A bumper for the car.
like a bumper and a hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that chain link fence area, is that like for a pet or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's right up against your property line?
It's right against my property line. It's a little bit away from the actual fence. There's a gap between it, but that's where we put our dogs in whenever we have visitors.
Okay,
Which is not, it's not permanent, so it's like it's movable.
uh-huh. Commissioners, do you have any questions at all?
No question, but just according to the agent report, the excavated material, it will be disposed outside of the 100-foot jurisdictional. That we know that that's happening, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
So that was made, I thought there would be more excavation involved here, but we can leave that special condition in if there are any spoils coming up when they install the screws.
Okay.
I do have one more comment. In a past conversation, Javier and I talked about the placement of the erosion controls around the site. You can see here the erosion controls are this dark black line with the X's. All the like the limit of work really is going to be contained kind of directly behind the house here. So rather than getting an entirely new plan submitted from Javier, we talked about maybe like taking this erosion control around this portion and kind of curving that up and enclosing this area rather than having it go all the way down along the fence line there. As long as the commission's okay with that slight modification without an additional plan submitted. And we can include some language about that in the special conditions allowing that erosion control to be pulled in.
Okay. Since this is actually altering the site a bit, is there any way that we might be able to move that shed out of the 25-foot and maybe place, I know there's some issues that I've seen before with places that have animals, if they're right up against the wetlands, then sometimes the waste products from the animals, if there's rain or something, can wash into the wetlands, which then kind of contaminates the wetlands with bacteria and stuff. So I don't know, is that something we should consider, Agent Holden?
Potentially, I mean, the commission may be able to do that. So that with that fenced in area for the animals, I guess that could be potentially relocated. I'm not sure when that shed was installed. That may predate the Wetlands Protection Act. I'm not sure what that foundation of that shed is, if that's movable either. We could certainly ask if the applicant is willing to do those things, and if they are, we can include that in the special conditions.
So the fence that we have, we've been here for what, 5 years?
Yeah.
We've been here for about 5 years. We use that that fence maybe 3 times within the 5 years.
And they definitely don't use the restroom in there just because that's where they typically would kind of like lay. They don't stay in there long. We'll keep them in there if an hour, and they barely are in there because we prefer them to just kind of roam. So they're rarely ever in there, but it is movable.
Yeah, so I mean, the chain link fence is definitely movable. I can move it anywhere on the property. Like I said, it's not staked down in any kind of way. So that's movable anywhere on the property. So I don't have no problem on if you foresee that it's a problem being where it's located at because it's so close to it. Again, I just put it there because it's right next to the kids where they play on
Yeah.
the swings.
Yeah.
That's easy. That's easy to move around.
Yeah.
The shed, that shed is that's been there since we moved in, and I don't know how it's anchored down to. I know they did there's a cement slab under it. Um, so I don't know exactly. I'll be lying to you if I said that I know exact date when was that there, but
Yeah.
it looks like it's been here since everything was built there. So
And you have another shed over by the pool, right?
that is correct.
Yeah. The only thing, I mean, I think the concerns would be to keep things out of the wetlands, out of that more like sensitive resource area. So things like salt or gasoline or things like that, probably shouldn't be kept there if there's a potential for them to spill out and to contaminate.
Fair enough. I mean, what if we just I could move the snow blower over to the other shed and just keep that shed as a dry shed.
I'm sure that would be fine if we could put that in as a special condition that, and as far as a chain link fence, I was more concerned if it was a permanent thing that was there and then somebody came in and bought the property from you and then started to use that as a, permanent place for an animal.
No.
Yeah, okay.
That's
So if
that's-
movable and you're willing to do that, I have no problem at all with that. Commissioners, any questions, comments? Kyle, do you have anything?
No, I'm just taking notes here of the additional special conditions that we've talked about, including which would be stipulating that the material stored in that shed that's existing near the open water there. No, Javier called it a dry shed, but we can put more detail in there. No gasoline, no salt stored there. And then we're going to allow them to wrap the erosion control around that one portion of the site that we looked at. And then any excavated material needs to be, disposed of properly outside of the 100-foot buffer zone.
And should we say anything about the animal pen or just?
That's up to you. You can ask them. We can say, have that be moved out of what do you think? Out of the 25-foot, or where would you like that to be?
Just outside of the 25-foot.
Okay. Yep.
I think, I mean, away from the area where, there's a little bit of a slope that leads down to that wetland.
Can I interject for a second?
Absolutely.
Where does the pet go to the bathroom? Outside in the yard? Anywhere? And I have pets myself, so I know they don't go to the bathroom where they sleep or rest or eat. So, I mean, it would be outside of that pen area. So I don't see that's a problem. But I mean, where does the pet go to the bathroom? That's the question, I guess.
The
Is
corner
it
with
on the front of the house or?
the corner where the pool's at,
Oh, okay, perfect. All right, that's it. Thank you.
and that's like the primary spot of where they always go.
It's nice if you can train them to do that.
Yeah.
Good for cleanup. Commissioners, any
Madam
recommendations?
Chair, I just want to add that what Javier is installing, not that I'm an expert at this at all, but minimal erosion. It's going in the ground. Javier, probably what, 2 feet, 2.5 feet?
What you mean?
The
You have
screws?
a pylon that you're gonna zip in the ground?
The piles go down past 3 feet, so it has to go past the frost line.
Cross line, okay, and minimal excavating, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's
it's a
good.
good system.
It's a beautiful system.
Yeah, it's a good system.
Good. Good. So Kyle, you have a list there of the special conditions then?
Yeah, so I can read them off again if you would
Yes.
like. We've got 4 special conditions that we've considered tonight. One is any excavated material needs to be properly disposed of outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. We're going to allow the erosion controls to wrap around the limit of work closer to the actual addition area. The shed that's near the open water is going to be a dry shed, no salts, no gasoline, no kind of liquid chemicals. And then we are asking that they relocate the pet cage, the chain link fence outside of the 20-foot buffer zone.
You okay with that, Javier and Brianna?
Oh, absolutely.
Comfortable? Okay, good.
So now do we move the stuff now and then have a reinspection, or how does that work?
Sure, I can kind of go over this. So once the commission, if they choose to issue an order of conditions, which is what we're discussing tonight, you will receive an order of conditions from me. I'll mail that to you. You need to get that recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And then once that's done, you need to go through and get whatever other building permits that you need to get through the city of Brockton. And when you're ready to do the actual construction, let me know, and I will come out and do a pre-construction meeting with you. We'll review the order of conditions, one last look at the site. You're able then to begin the work. Once you complete all the work, you let me know again, and you will need to apply for a certificate of compliance, basically stating that you've done the work. The work is what you had proposed, and all the conditions that the commission asked of you have been met. And then you will receive at a later date, once everything's done, the certificate of compliance, basically saying you did a great job and did everything that we asked you to do.
All right, just to make sure I understand, I will get a letter from you with all the conditions, right? That I need to, and then I'm okay to go for the to get the permit.
Yeah, yep, you can get a building permit then from the building department.
All right, and then all right, because the building department told me that not to pull anything until I hear clearance from you guys. So is that a clearance for?
So assuming the commission votes to issue an order
Okay.
tonight, then you can feel free to contact the building department and get all that rolling.
Beautiful. Okay.
So commissioners, any other questions, comments? If not, then I entertain a motion to close, please, on 125 Southland Terrace.
I make a motion to close 125 Southland Terrace.
Motion seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Talbot, aye.
And Voris, aye. That motion passes. And now entertain a motion, please, to issue an order of conditions with the special conditions listed by Agent Holden.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions with the 4 special conditions that Kyle has mentioned tonight.
Motion seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Talbot, aye.
And Voris, aye. Well, Brianna and Javier, I guess you can go on to the building department now.
Yes.
Thank you so
Only
much.
one more set of hoops. Only one more set.
I appreciate it.
Pleasure, though. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Happy holidays.
You as well.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is a notice of intent for 68 12th Avenue, an addition, a sunroom addition.
Yeah, the applicant's representative has raised their hand. I've promoted them to a panelist. Maybe I didn't before, but I certainly just did again. So hopefully, yep. So Greg Ernst has joined as a panelist. Oh, I think I accidentally promoted the wrong person initially.
Okay,
Sorry about that, Evan. Thank you.
Greg Ernst. Patio enclosures.
Oh,
Hi, Mr. Ernst.
hello.
Welcome.
Hello. I have Annette Epps, who is the homeowner. She's on speakerphone. I think she's having some trouble connecting. but she's on speakerphone on my phone, and I'm pretty sure she can hear you. Annette, can you hear?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Good. Good.
she can hear you. I got my speakerphone next to my computer, so anyway.
That's good. Thank you. Mr. Ernst would like to present what is proposed for 12th Avenue.
So so I'm the contractor. She's the homeowner. Patio enclosures from Taunton, and she would like to have a 3-season room installed on the front of her house. The wetlands are behind the house.
One quick notification. I just wanted to make sure that abutters have been notified, and that is there a DEP file number available for this project?
Yes, thank you. So, yes, the butters have been properly notified. DEP has issued a file number with some technical comments. I'd like to read those now, if that's fine.
Yes, please.
So this is the technical comments. Project appears to be located within bordering land subject to flooding. Applicant must demonstrate compliance with 310 CMR, basically the regulations for compliance with any work within the bordering land subject to flooding. And that's reflected in my comments in the agent report as well.
I did read that. I didn't quite understand it, but I did read it.
Okay.
Okay, we can kind of talk through that maybe after we do the kind of presentation. Greg, do you have are you able to share your screen for the site plan?
Oh, geez, I don't even have it on my screen.
I can share it if that's okay.
Sure.
Sure.
Kyle, would you like to explain that bordering land subject to flooding
Yeah.
simultaneously, and then we can go back?
Well, yeah. So as Mr. Ernst had mentioned here, so we've got a bordering vegetated wetland delineated in the back of the property over here to the right side of the screen. What they've got marked here is all in green. This is the wetland boundary. This is the 25-foot boundary, and then the 100-foot buffer zone. What they don't show on here is the bordering land subject to flooding. This is basically FEMA flood zone A is what the flood zone that this property exists within. So any work that's done within the 100-year floodplain, which is what that flood zone is, needs to be well, first off, it's that whole type of area, all BLSF is jurisdictional under the Conservation Commission. But then furthermore, whenever you do any building within the floodplain, you need to offset basically the volume that you're adding to the floodplain. You need to offset that somehow on the site, so you are not impacting the flood storage capacity of the flood zone. So that's something that wasn't included on the site plan. So one thing that we will be asking the applicant to provide before we refer this out for peer review is to include that bordering land subject to flooding line on this map. And that's going to need to have some engineering calculations to back that up. Flood zone A doesn't have a base flood elevation, so that's something that needs to be determined on a site-by-site basis. And then in addition to updating the site plan, we will be needing them to submit a new WPA Form 3, which is the Notice of Intent filing form, including in that form the impacts to the bordering land subject to flooding. So Greg, I can work with you offline to kind of try to fill that out. But ultimately, the commission generally refers projects that are in the floodplain out for peer review. And another thing that I didn't think of until just now is for a project like this, if you're doing building within the floodplain, you're supposed to get a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So that might be something that the applicant needs to look into as well. So this is we have another project that we are currently putting on hold before we send it out for peer review because they have not gotten that zoning variance yet, and we should be ensuring that they have that zoning variance before the commission begins the review of a project that's in the floodplain. So that is not in my agent report. I had kind of completely spaced about that, but that is something that the commission should be aware of. as well.
Mhm. So that's the zoning board of appeals, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Do you have a map of that floodplain, where that floodplain is? Or is that,
Yeah, I can pull that up in a moment. Do you have any questions about the site plan before because I'm going to need to change screens.
oh, I'm sorry, okay. So your addition is that 10 by 12 foot sunroom
Yes.
with stairs? Are you gonna add that staircase, little staircase in there too?
There'll be, yeah, this addition is over the front door. So there'd have to be a couple of steps coming out of it.
Mm-hmm. And it's a 10 by 12, okay.
I can pull the map up if you're ready, Madam Chair.
Kyle, is this a non-conforming lot?
That's something that I'm not entirely sure of. So we'll have to maybe, is that for zoning?
Well, is that why you were asking about, saying there was a need for for zoning review or for a variance?
Any construction, this is based upon the Brockton zoning ordinance. Any construction work within floodplain citywide requires a variance from the zoning board of appeals.
Okay.
Mr. Ernst, will you be pouring a foundation under the sunroom?
No, we would do the same thing as the previous applicant. We typically use a product called Techno Metal Post, which is what the previous applicant was talking about. We do it all the time, so I'm a lot more familiar than he was. It's basically a 2-inch galvanized pipe that's corkscrewed into the ground and requires no excavation, no concrete. A small machine. I could actually pull up on my iPad. I could show you a picture of it. But a small little I don't know if this is going to work or not. I guess it's not going to work. I'm not too good with technology.
That's okay.
You'd
That's
have to
okay.
turn your background off, probably.
What's that?
You'd have to try and turn your background off because it's making the screen.
Oh, okay. Turn maybe hide self or am I there? Like that?
It's still gonna blur it a bit. It's
No.
still, yeah, it's still counting as a background, so it's blurring the background, like the screen.
That's okay.
It's a small machine that has a hydraulic arm, and it just basically corkscrews a 2-inch pipe into the ground. It just doesn't disturb the soil at all. These things, you can put them in today in the morning, and in the afternoon they look like they've been there for years.
Mhm.
So it has a hydraulic arm, and it just basically corkscrews a 2-inch pipe into the ground. It just doesn't disturb the soil at all. These things, you can put them in today.
Oh, you're getting feedback.
In the afternoon, they look like they've been there for years. So it has a hydraulic arm, and basically corkscrews a 2-inch pipe into the ground. It just doesn't disturb the soil at all. These things, you put them in today.
You're getting feedback.
I don't know what happened there. All of a sudden, I heard myself talking.
Kyle, do you have anything else that you want to add or any suggestions?
Yeah, I've got I'm gonna mute you, Greg, because we're just continuing to get some feedback. All right. Hopefully that fixes the feedback issue there. Greg, you're welcome to speak again if we need you to, but I've muted you for now. Madam Chair, I've got the floodplain map pulled up if you want to look at that real quick.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is just a map from Mass Mapper. Let's see. 68 12th Avenue is here kind of at the middle of the screen.
Yep.
This teal overlay is the FEMA flood zone A. So the entire parcel is contained within that flood zone. So at this point, we've kind of opened the hearing. We've kind of seen the project. I'm recommending that, well, first step is that the applicant will need to apply for a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Once and if they receive that variance, then the commission can consider next steps, which may involve a referral to a third party to check the standards for building within the bordering lines of flooding with the floodplain capacity that we talked about earlier. And I guess, but my recommendation for the applicant is first try to get that variance from ZBA, because everything else is kind of contingent upon you getting that variance. Because if you don't get that variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, then you can't move forward with the project anyway. So that would be my recommendation. Is first, we can continue tonight and allow the applicant to get that application with ZBA in the works.
And then if the variance was obtained, then he would have to go through with a new filing, well.
Not a new filing,
filing,
but they would need to
amend
submit new materials
plan.
to us even before we send it out for review. But I can, Greg, assuming you get that variance, I can work with you on what exactly we need at a minimum before we can refer this project out.
So I guess we would probably vote to continue until next month.
That would be my recommendation, yes.
And commissioners, any questions, any comments?
No questions, no comments. Sounds like a good plan.
Okay. Entertain a motion then to continue 68 12th Avenue until the meeting in January 22nd.
I make a motion to continue. You can go, Peg.
Okay. I'll make a motion to continue 68th 12th Avenue to the January 22nd meeting.
Motion seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, aye.
Green eye.
And Voris, aye. And Mr. Ernst, good luck with the ZBA.
Now my experience is those variances don't happen that fast. So if we don't have it that in time for the next meeting, should I just keep Kyle in the loop on my progress?
Yeah. So I kind of made a mistake. Technically, the commission should not have even opened our public hearing before you have at least applied for that variance. So we'll just kind of we will continue to continue this project until you at least apply for that variance, and then we can kind of move forward.
Okay. I'm sure we'll be talking.
Yeah.
Are you going?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a certificate of compliance for an easement between Alger Street and Thatcher and Southfield Drive. Whitman 20-inch force main sewer replacement.
Yeah, I've promoted Andrew Grata with Apex. That's the new name for the company. Andrew, I'm going to let you do that whole spiel if you want.
Yeah, sure. So no, thank you, Kyle. My name is Andrew Grota. I'm a project manager with Apex Companies. We were formerly Environmental Partners Group up until this past November. We just recently changed officially. We've been acquired for a couple of years, but I've been working on this project since 2018. For those folks who don't know, we've been working on behalf of the town of Whitman. The town of Whitman has an existing sewer force main that runs and conveys, I would say, 95 to 99% of the flow of wastewater from Whitman to the city of Brockton for treatment. The project that we've been working on, it's the installation of 16,000 linear feet of 20-inch new sewer force main pipe, about a third of which is located in a cross-country easement between Thatcher Street and Alger Way. The work itself began in early 2022 and was substantially complete in late 2023. We had applied initially for a request for a certificate of compliance back in the late spring, early summer of this past year. At the time, the vegetation wasn't quite to the level of what we had wanted and what was outlined in the original order of conditions for the project. So we had waited 6 months, and I believe there was also some other conditions in there about some removal of some construction materials, which we were able to work with our general contractor to get those removed. So last month, myself, Kyle, and our wetland scientist and the general contractor walked the site and found that the easement had sufficiently gotten the growth that we were looking for in terms of wetland restoration. And the materials that were in question, I think there was some matting, some debris piles, other materials. They had been since removed and were gone by the time we made our visit. We did find that in the easement, there were a couple things of note. It appeared some ATV and dirt bike trail, access had been kind of going through the easement. I know over the years that we've seen, dirt bike marks and whatnot in the easement limits. That did impede some of the growth of the vegetation over the past summer into the fall. But overall, the easement itself had met that 75% threshold that we were looking for in terms of vegetative growth. The other thing we found is that off of Thatcher Street, it appeared that, and again, I don't know who was using this, but it looked like there was like a debris dump, like someone was coming in off of Thatcher Street and then dumping debris outside the limits of the easement. It looked like there was some soil stockpiles that were outside the limits of the easement that we had not seen previously and weren't in our original reports. I guess for those who don't know, we've been having Brooke Monroe from Pine Brook Consulting, our wetland scientist. She, as part of the conditions, we have her do a biannual report every 6 months. So we keep routine, eyes on, the condition of the easement and the adjacent area. So that was new to us. And then the other thing we found was at the Beaver Brook, where we had gone underneath with our new pipeline, trenchlessly. We had found that there was a log bridge that was built. I know, Kyle, you had mentioned based on aerial photography that had been there for the past 10 years.
Yeah, at least 10 years. Yeah, it's been there for a while.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it had been rebuilt over the years. That was the first time I had seen it going out that way. And I had asked Brooke the same thing. She had the same recollection. So again, it looked like it was installed for ATV or dirt bike access over the Beaver Brook. It looked like it was impeding some of the flow there. And I know Kyle and I had talked about talking to the DPW in Brockton to see if we can get that removed and some sort of a barrier put up off of Thatcher Street to prevent people from using the easement area as a dump site. So, but all in all, as far as the work that we perform within the limits of our easement, we did see that growth that was required by the original order and remove those piles and feel we're in a good spot to get the certificate of compliance for the project.
Thank you. Kyle, do you have anything that you might want to add?
Just I guess some clarification for the commission. As Andrew had mentioned, there were a lot of things that I had outlined in my original agent report earlier this year, where we voted to deny the issuance of the certificate of compliance. After follow-up discussions with Andrew and the site visit that we conducted a couple months ago, a lot of those concerns we've kind of collectively determined to be outside of the scope of this project. They're outside of the limit of the easement, or some of the concerns that I had raised are on private property. So for example, a lot of the construction matting, one of the private property owners nearby had requested that he be able to retain that and hold on to it. So it's just like stacked up in piles, but that's on his property and it's outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. I was under the impression that that was just leftover material from the work that was being done. So there were a lot of things like that I had raised concerns about that turn out to be just kind of beyond the scope of what we're looking for this certificate of compliance for the just the restoration of that easement. As Andrew said, the two kind of remaining issues were the vegetation growth and then the removal of the just small bits of construction material, concrete debris piles, and erosion controls within the easement area. And all of that has been removed, and to my satisfaction. And I agree with Andrew that the overall requirement of the 75% growth within the easement has been met. So I'm comfortable, issuing a complete certificate of compliance for the project, and that would be my recommendation to the commission.
Commissioners, any questions, comments?
I thought I read that they were looking for a 3-year continuance. Did I misread that, or is it someone else?
That would not be for this project.
Okay.
I do have one final comment. So Andrew did mention that we have been kind of reaching out with DPW. We haven't set a time yet, but we do have plans. Andrew, myself, and representatives from Brockton DPW to go out to the site to assess access from Thatcher Street to maybe limit access to the city-owned parcel where a lot of that soil dumping had occurred. Again, that dumping is itself outside of the easement, but that is within the parcel that's owned by the city of Brockton. And it does appear that all that dumping currently is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone to any jurisdictional area. But I'm just concerned about down the line, we want to limit that access so we don't have unpermitted, just rampant dumping back there.
There is a chain on the Alder Way side that has helped mitigate folks from going down that way. There's also a beekeeper that lives right adjacent to where the easement is that I know he's pretty meticulous about keeping his property kind of up to snuff. So, but just on the Thatcher side, there's not really any means to prevent folks from coming in to the easement off of Thatcher Street. So we had talked about like putting some sort of a barrier or something in place to try to impede some of that in the future.
Good. Sounds great. Commissioners, any questions or anything? If not, I think we can entertain a motion to issue a complete certificate of compliance for the 20-inch forced main sewer replacement. Motion.
I make a motion to issue the complete certificate of compliance for the Whitman 20-inch forced main sewer replacement project.
I'll second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to issue the complete certificate of compliance. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, aye.
Green eye.
And Voris, aye. And that motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Grota.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Kyle.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Happy holiday. Okay. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is number 5, certificate of compliance for Dunbar Street, a new maintenance building. Is Mr. Faria here, or?
Yeah, I've promoted Mr. Faria to be a panelist.
There we go.
Hi, Mr. Faria.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commission members. Good evening. Madam Chair, what we have is a request for a certificate of compliance. We've been before the commission a couple times for a request. It's for a project that we permitted back in late 2018 through the commission and through the planning board. It's a maintenance building to the Davis Commons housing development. This maintenance building is at the very dead end of Dunbar Street. It's a building. They did some drainage facilities, some parking, basketball court behind it as an amenity for the housing development. And in years past, we've requested the certificate and have always had some issues with the drainage. The drainage seemed to be working fine now, so we did renew our request for a certificate. We did get Kyle's comments this week on our request, and there's a few things that we need to tighten up on it. So I think we will do that, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Kyle, do you want to add to that?
Well, Scott, yeah, I don't know if you're prepared to discuss any of these things now, or if you want to just kind of put together another plan for next month, or what.
Either way, Kyle, I mean, there's, as I said, the detention basin was working fine. Uh, you know, you saw it on a bad day. I'm hoping. I haven't been out there recently. The last time I was out there before I filed, it was bone dry. As you stated, you were out there December 11th ish. Right after that heavy rainstorm we got, and there was water in it. So I'm hoping I go out there now and it's dry, and it might have just been a little bit slower than those 72 hours. There does seem to be some cleanup. We've had those issues before. It's a big housing development. It's a little bit hard to control. You did make mention of some kind of cages in the back, I'll say, to be honest, I guess. And those cages that look like they're for animals out kind of in the woods, they've been there at different times when I've been out there, and they've been gone at different times. So I'll certainly make mention of that to the management, and hopefully get them removed for sure, because there have been water bowls, food bowls out there, leading to believe for some reason at some point during the day there's animals that are hanging out there in the woods. So we'll make the management aware of that, and try to get that resolved before the next one as well, Kyle.
Okay, do you so the original plan included the monitoring well? Is that something that was that ever installed?
I'm almost positive it was, Kyle. RJ Messina did all the site work. I know we've discussed it at different times, and it was there. I don't know if somehow it's not there, or if it just didn't show up on my plan, but I'll check into that as well. But it was there.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And then the final thing, just so everything's on the table now, would be the installation of the conservation markers along the limit of work. Would be needed to be installed before the issuance of the certificate of compliance.
I didn't look. I mean, we'll certainly do that. I don't know that was part of the original order of conditions.
I believe it was, but
okay.
we can discuss that offline too, Scott.
Yeah, either way, that's a small item. I'll make sure I take care of that before the next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We get those in.
Okay.
So I think I'd like to ask for a continuance to address those items, if I may, Madam Chair.
That sounds like a plan to me. A vote to issue a continuance until the next meeting for Dunbar Street. I'm not a vote. Sorry, I need a motion.
A motion to continue Dunbar Street until the January 22nd meeting.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Aye.
Green eye.
Would I?
And Vorsai. And the motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, folks.
Okay.
A few minutes.
Okay. The last one that's in the new filings would be an RDA, a request for determination of applicability for 995 Belmont Street. Addition of a new transformer.
I promoted two representatives to panelists to discuss this project with the commission.
Eversource and Tie and Bond. Hi, Mr. Clancy. Hi, Ms. Locker. How are
Good
you?
evening, Madam Chair.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good.
How are you doing?
Fine. What are your plans?
I'll let Val start, and then I'll stay in the back in case there's any specific questions.
Thank you.
All right. And pardon me, I'm going to be using a separate monitor, so my eyes might look to the side for a bit while I get this set up. All right, can you please let me know if you can see the slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So yes, my name is Val Locker. I'm from Tie and Bond, supporting Eversource with this project. It's located at the existing Brockton Service Center, and it's an electrical service replacement project. So a little bit more about the site location. It's at 995 Belmont Street, which is generally in the northeast corner where Belmont intersects Route 24. And the proposed activities include replacing the existing electric transformer and appurtenant facilities, including a pad-mounted generator and an electric service line. The existing electric service line, it's underground and it connects to a utility pole that's at the southeastern corner of the property. The proposed replacements will have minor deviations in footprint, but they're entirely located with previously disturbed areas of pavement for the facility's parking lot and maintained lawn. And I'll have a photo a little later to show those existing conditions. The impacts that are jurisdictional under Wetland Protection Act are limited to within the 100-foot buffer zone, and they're primarily in the second 50 feet of that, the outside of the 50-foot between 50 and 100. Following completion of the activities, most of the activities are going to be temporary except for the replaced transformer and generator, and all other temporarily disturbed areas will be restored in kind, pavement with pavement, or vegetated areas with vegetation. Here's the existing site conditions photo that I mentioned. From here, we're in the southeast corner of the property at the existing utility pole, facing north towards the building. And this follows the existing path of the underground service line. And that corner of the building, generally where the parking lot ends in the corner of the building, that's where the replacement transformer and generator will sit, and the underground service line will connect from there to this utility pole. So as you can see, existing maintained lawn and parking lot.
And when you say the building, you're referring to the blue building there, that corner of the blue building, right?
Correct, the blue building. And then here is the site plan to help orient you. There are in the light blue colors, those are the wetland resource areas. There is 100-year floodplain or bordering land subject to flooding. That's what these thicker lines are, sort of off-site to the southeast. There's a bordering vegetated wetland at the southern end, and then running along the eastern side of the property, there's an intermittent stream. So this almost looks like a call-out box, a rectangle with a tail. This is the limits of work and is, as I mentioned, not within any of the resource areas themselves. It's within the 100-foot buffer and primarily within the 50 to 100-foot buffer, with just a small area around the existing utility pole that's within the 25 to 50-foot buffer zone. During construction, there will be sediment and erosion controls implemented to, protect indirect impacts to the wetland resource areas. And other than that, we're looking for, a negative determination on this electrical replacement project, and we're happy to address any questions you might have.
Will the existing pole will there be any alterations to the existing pole, or will you be using that same pole?
My understanding is that they'll be using the same pole. I don't believe it's owned by Eversource. James, can you confirm?
Yeah, this is a weird thing. So it's an Eversource building, but it's the electric service is actually National Grid. So National Grid owns up until that pole. So they're the ones that are going to make the determination whether or not it'll need to be replaced. It's going to be replaced in the exact same location if it is replaced, and will be the same grade pole. It's just whether or not the pole is degraded over time and they feel it should be replaced.
And so would erosion controls then change position, you think? I don't know. If they were going to do that, would they have to come out further toward the 25?
Maybe by a foot or two.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be able to pull the existing pole and then essentially place the new pole in essentially the exact same hole. So they might back it up 1 or 2 feet just to move the sedimentation line.
Okay.
Yep.
Kyle, do you have anything that you might like to add, or Any questions?
No, I think that was a very thorough presentation. Thank you. I don't really have any additional comments to add to the work that's being proposed. I can kind of walk through the Wetlands Protection Act and kind of talk about the negative determination that I'm recommending, if you're ready.
Certainly.
Yeah, so I'm recommending that the commission issue a -3 determination. The 3 allows the commission to put a stipulation, kind of like a special condition, along with a negative determination. But in short, I believe this proposed work qualifies as an exempt minor activity under the definition of the act. So all of this work is I'll just read from the agent report. It might be easier than me trying to ad lib this. Yeah, I believe this work qualifies it as an exempt minor activity. All the proposed work it involves the installation of new equipment within only the buffer zone rather than impacting an actual resource area. It's just completely within the buffer zone, where the work is contained within a previously developed or disturbed existing fenced yard associated with an electric or gas facility. So that's kind of what the criteria that we're kind of looking for is. And so I believe that this project matches all of those. It's completely within the buffer zone. It's within a fenced yard associated with an electrical facility. So I believe that the commission can issue a -3 determination. The recommended special condition would be that the commission is not approving the wetland delineation lines here. And if this property were to propose more work in the area, they would need to file, either another RDA or a notice of intent, as would be appropriate.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions, comments? Anything?
Does National Grid need to come before us if they plan on changing out that pole?
I would consider that part of this project. A replacement in kind would also be an exempt activity. So it would be my, thought that if they decide to choose to replace that pole, that would be kind of covered within this determination.
Is that
What
it's
kind?
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what kind of a disturbance would they make in replacing that pole?
Well, James, you want to maybe speak to that?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I don't want to speak for National Grid's means and methods, but usually when we have a project that's replacing a pole in kind, there's very minimal, if really no disturbance. That's not temporary. So really, they'll pull the pole out with a normal bucket truck, and then a similar size truck will come in, and they have like an auger bit that'll go down and just bore out the hole, and then they place the pole, scoop back whatever might have been pushed aside by the auger. And then they'll mound it a little bit so that as that soil settles, it kind of flattens itself out as the pole settles. And then they'll, mulch and seed if required, if it's in a grassed area like this. And that's really all we'd expect.
Who would monitor that?
So I mean, if National Grid determines they have to replace the pole, when we they'll determine that when we apply for the upgraded service from their overhead. And then if they determine they need to replace the pole, depending on schedule, it'll be part of our kind of ongoing inspections for our construction, because it's kind of within our limit of work.
Lily, did you have a question?
Yeah, you had mentioned at one point about it being moved if needed. It would most likely be moved back away, not closer to the wetland resource area. Like if for some reason, like you said, the oh wait, I put a note in it.
That would be if the erosion and sedimentation controls needed to move. I don't think the pole would have to move in any specific direction. They'd only replace the pole if it was like degraded or I mean, they have Eversource and National Grid both have standards of the condition of a pole and how it needs to look and perform based off the equipment that's on it. So if National Grid makes the determination that it's degraded or old or in any way not up to snuff, then they'll just replace it in kind, pretty much in the exact same location.
Yeah, I think I got confused with when he said movement of this. That was the erosion and sediment, not the pole itself. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So Kyle, my understanding is if we issue a -3 determination, we could attach special conditions to that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what the purpose of the -3 determination is. Now, before we move forward, may I kind of just make one comment? So, the replacement in kind of like the utility pole would also be an exempt activity. It's in a different section, so I didn't reference that in the agent report, but that would be also considered an exempt activity. So you know, whether or not they choose to replace that pole, assuming it's within the area that's protected by the erosion controls, I think that that would also qualify as being exempt generally.
The only reason I even questioned it at all is because it's a different company who's not here to, to talk about it, but
Sure.
fine.
Well, I mean, yeah. What kind of conditions were you considering?
Oh, just that if there was going to be any substantial change at all, that you would be able to go out to evaluate any changes that might be made, that might occur.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we could certainly include that if the pole does need to be replaced, that at minimum, the agent would come out to the site. I think James and I could orchestrate that.
Would that be reasonable, do you think?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Kyle's a lot of fun to hang out with. So
He is. Is there anyone from the public here? I think for an RDA, right? We have to entertain input from the public if there is any.
It is a public hearing. I'll check and see if there are any hands raised. I don't see any hands raised, Madam Chair.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or comments or anything? And Kyle, could you just refresh for our memory what the -3 determination, that was a recommendation or something about the
Yeah, so the initial special condition that I had recommended was that the commission's not approving the wetland line, and if any additional work were to be proposed on the site, they would have to come back and file either an RDA or a notice of intent as appropriate. And then we will also include a second condition stating that if National Grid chooses to replace the pole, at minimum, the agent will need to come out and do a site visit.
sounds reasonable. Commissioners? Entertain a motion then to issue a -3 determination.
Make a motion to make a -3 determination on 995 Belmont Street with the special conditions as outlined by Kyle this evening.
I second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
And Voris, aye. That motion passes. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, everybody.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye. Thank you. It just was so close to the 25. Thank you. Okay. By the way, do you see Mr. Hill here?
Yeah, Commissioner Hill is in the attendees.
Okay, so before we continue on, perhaps we could, onto the current filings, perhaps we could.
Yeah, so we would need to be taking, there are two items that Commissioner Hill is here to speak about tonight. That's number 18, 2 Silver Road, and number 19, 34 Herman Street. So we would need to take those out of order, Madam.
Okay. I think that's appropriate. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda then would be number 2 Silver Road.
Number 8 Silver Road.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry?
If you choose to take those items out of order, the next item to be discussed would be number 18, 2
Number
Silver
18.
Road.
Yes, correct.
All right, I will promote Commissioner Hill. This is the Commissioner of the Brockton Department of Public Works. And I guess I can give a little kind of context here. So the Two Silver Road, the commission voted to issue an enforcement order to the property owner for the unpermitted removal of additional trees. We had initially issued an emergency certificate allowing the removal of a down tree that had landed on kind of the driving area or the parking area and on a few cars at Two Silver Road. So we had the commission issued an emergency certification allowing the removal of just that down tree. At that time, the property owner was interested in removing some additional trees along the bank of whatever brook runs right there. And the commission informed the property owner that in order to take those trees that were not like actively fallen over, that he would need to file a notice of intent with the commission before removing those trees. Subsequently, like a year had gone by after the initial emergency tree removal. And I just happened to be driving by the property and I noticed those some additional trees along the bank had been removed. And I compared that to some pictures that I took when we issued the emergency certification, confirmed that additional trees outside of the down tree had been removed, and we issued an enforcement order 3 or 4 months ago. Since then, the property owner has not come to the commission to discuss this. I've had some private conversations with Commissioner Hill about this. And I've asked him to come tonight to kind of speak to the commission about what actions have been taken and what the proposed remedy, what we're kind of discussing as far as how to resolve this.
Hi, Commissioner Hill. How are you? Welcome.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
So, I mean, long story short, with this situation, after the initial order was granted for the property owner to remove the downed tree while my staff was there, my forestry staff was there. They had called me to come assess another tree because it was a windy day and the tree root system was moving. We call it walking, and basically the roots were walking up and down when the wind blew. It was a dangerous tree. It was hanging over the public way on Belmont Ave. So I instructed them to take that tree. Now, I don't know about anything about the other trees. There was one tree that was taken by us. It was probably 6 inches in diameter, maybe 20 feet tall, hanging over a portion of the Salisbury Brook and Belmont Avenue. So that was done at my instruction, but I can't speak for the other trees that Kyle was talking about.
Okay, I've got some photos that I can share just to give some context, if that would be okay, Madam Chair.
Of course.
So this first photo is a photo that I took during the emergency certification issuance process. I'm standing on the bridge that crosses this waterway. And there, to my eye, you can see the tree in the background here. That's obviously the down tree. And then in the foreground, in front of that tree that's going horizontally, I count 4 trees. One here, 2, 3, and 4. About a year later is when I went back out to the site, and you can see there are at least 4 stumps here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So so I was not, I just spoke to Commissioner Hill today. I thought that the Brockton DPW had come in and cleared all of these trees rather than just one. In any case, the commission is requesting that the property owner kind of do some restoration plantings along this bank to kind of replace these trees that have been taken down. Pat, we've spoken previously about, is DPW willing to go in and do the plantings along the bank there, or are you just would you be willing to do one tree since DPW took down one? I think at this point, I think the commission, and I don't want to speak for the commission, but there were 4 trees that were removed. I think at minimum, we should be looking at replacing 4 trees along the bank.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think planting 4 trees is a big deal. If we're going there for 1, we can go there for 4. We do, we are very fortunate that we do get these trees for free through the state. So In the springtime, I was planning on going and replacing the one that we were doing. It's not a big deal to replace the other three.
Okay, before DPW moves forward with that, would it be possible to put a rough plan together as far as the locations, the species of trees, things along that line, to submit to the commission for approval?
Yep.
Thank
Okay,
you. I just have a quick question. Is this property owned by the city, or is this property owned by the person that was issued the enforcement order?
So the brook is maintained by the city, not necessarily owned by the city, much like most waterways. It varies on a brook versus a river versus a stream as to ownership.
Sure.
Oftentimes or almost all the time, it's the city's obligation to maintain the actual flow. But the abutting property owners up to halfway of the stream are technically responsible for the maintenance of the banks. I don't ownership. I don't necessarily know one way or another, but whether I don't think the city owns it, but we certainly do maintain it.
Okay, thank you. So what happens to this enforcement order, Kyle?
Well, in this case, the enforcement order stands, but DPW is stepping in to resolve the enforcement order. So I will work with Commissioner Hill about getting, before the planting occurs, to get some rough kind of restoration plan, including the locations and the species of trees for commission approval, because that's what would normally happen is we would require a restoration plan be submitted, and then the commission would review that plan, approve that plan, and then the property owner, or in this case DPW, will be responsible for following through on that restoration plan that's been approved by the commission.
Okay.
If that's something that if all of this is something that the commission can agree with.
Commissioners? Comments, questions?
I'm just, I have a question about who actually cut down the other three trees, and are we assuming that the people who live at 2 Silver Road did it, and are we pursuing restoration from them, either for the cost of some of the trees that disappeared or got cut down?
Well, Mr. Hill said that the trees are free, but the enforcement order is still in place for that particular person, right? The enforcement order is.
Yeah, so the way that all of this works legally is like the enforcement order and any permits that the commission issues, we might issue it to person B, but they may sell the property. The permitting that we issue, and by extension an enforcement order, it sticks to the land. So if Stu were to sell the property, like the commission could still require the next property owner to remedy this situation. So it's more of a requirement that the land itself be restored. And if the DPW is willing to step in and do that restoration work, I think that that's as good as the commission can really hope for here.
Yeah, we don't really have a sufficient tree inventory to either identify the tree size or condition. So to put a value to the tree from the city's perspective, from if we were even looking to recover something from a liability standpoint, would be almost impossible. So we're in the process of getting some grant money to begin taking a portion of the trees, city tree inventory, but that won't start till the spring.
Now, Kyle, would an NOI be required to be able to do the plantings and restoration because of the proximity to the South River?
Sure. So initially, in the initial enforcement order issued to the property owner, we did require that they submit an after the fact notice of intent. And that was mostly because during the whole correspondence with the property owner during the emergency certification portion of this site, we informed the property owner that if he chose to get these other trees removed, that he would need to file notice of intent. And that never occurred. So it was our understanding, my understanding when I issued that enforcement order, that the property owner was the one that came in and cleared these trees. So the after the fact requirement was more of just holding them to the same standard that we had initially informed them about. If DPW is going to be going in and doing this work, a notice of intent is not required. We can restore the bank with a restoration, a plan, and the commission can look at that plan and review that plan, and have that plan implemented without without notice of intent.
But we will be able to see that plan.
Yeah, there will be a plan submitted to the commission for review and consideration and approval before the restoration, the planting occurs.
That sounds great. Good, thank you.
Okay, all right.
Commissioners, any questions, any comments?
A question, it might be very not related to the restoration plan, but more just like in the future if something like this happens. So he mentioned that the tree was determined that like it was kind of like an emergency that needed to be done. I know in the past we've done filings where like if something needs to be done right away, they do it and then you file like an emergency certificate. So I guess it's more of a question of like if something similar happens at a different brook or a different waterway that say DPW is maintaining or someone else is maintaining, just what is expected, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's something that's very hard to track from my perspective, especially in some of these weather events that we've been getting lately. We do see a lot of downed trees. We do a lot of emergency response. We have, all hands on deck kind of thing. We have contractors in here sometimes assisting us to get some of these trees removed. So 9 out of 10 times, I don't know much about any of the work that has transpired. I'm trying to get my guys into a habit where if there's an issue or if they think there's an issue with a wetland thing, to give me a call. I've never had to move forward. I'm not saying I won't. I'm just saying I've never had to file anything after the fact in the past, but certainly it's a practice that I'm willing to start doing. So.
What did you call that? Walking routes?
We call it like a walking root system where, the tree weight actually makes the root system lift up off the ground where the roots are exposed, and the gravel or the, whatever is underneath the root system. You can see it clear, like it basically looks like it's pulling a hole up underneath the tree. So when the tree, every time the tree sways, the whole root system comes up off the ground. If you've seen, in a windstorm, if you're out and about, which I oftentimes am, we see it a lot, where trees, the weight of the tree will pull the root system right out of the ground before the tree snaps, creating, obviously a pretty severe hazard. So when I saw that, I was like, just take it. We don't need that to fall into the street. They're basically hanging over the sidewalk, have some kid, have the tree drop on some kid. So it's just one of those game time decisions that we make a lot. So during weather events.
Well,
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've had a tree in our house fall in it. I was literally sitting at the wall where it fell against, but luckily it wasn't tall enough to go through. So I'm glad that I don't want to prevent any in the moment decisions that will help save any lives or any kinds of things. I just also want to make sure that I guess we get kind of awareness that it happens, just so we can get to it and see if anything was disturbed, if it is a wetland, and get a restoration plan done sooner rather than later.
Yep, understood.
Yeah, if I may, and along that note, Commissioner Green, the emergency certification, certificate that we can issue, that's something that I, as the agent, can issue, and I can do it like the day of. So if Commissioner Hill were to call me about a problem, we could get that certificate issued that day. And then at the subsequent conservation meeting, I could then present that to you, and then ultimately the commission would need to kind of ratify that emergency order. But that's the way that would do. Like the DPW wouldn't necessarily have to wait until the following month's meeting to get approval to do any of this kind of emergency type work.
Good. Okay. So we really have, we'll just be waiting then for Mr. Hill, right? From Commissioner Hill to get a plan and.
Yeah, I'll have a restoration plan to Kyle. As soon as we get into the planting season, that's likely not going to be till April, May. But I'll be back.
Good, thank you. And while you're still here, there's no action that we have to take or anything, Kyle, right? This was really important.
Yeah, this is more just to make sure the commission was okay with this as a game plan moving forward. And then if we're all in agreement, we can just wait for that restoration plan from DPW in the springtime.
Sounds great. And then while you're still here, before you leave, there's something about 34 Herman Street.
Yeah, so 34 Herman Street is a property that has been a offender in the quality of life task force. Obviously, Kyle sits on that board as well. They've been dumping debris, construction debris in their backyard and pushing it and grading it slowly, creating or extending their yard back out towards a natural stream that's in the back. There's a lot of debris, there's a lot of trash, there's a lot of metal, there's a lot. The place is just a mess. So we were in court today with the one of the assistant solicitors, Kyle, myself, and James Doucette from the Board of Health, who's one of the sanitary inspectors. And we need to remove all of the gravel in a 60 by 60, roughly 60 by 60 area at the rear of 34 Herman Street. It's going to require some significant excavation. We know that we'll have to get some form of a soil sock or something to put up against the stream bank. But it's going to be a pretty significant effort with some pretty large equipment, and it's going to probably take my crews, if I had to guess, maybe 3 or 4 full days. There's about 600 to 800 yards of construction debris that has to be removed to bring that site back to its original grading.
So Kyle, yes, you have your hand up. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Just a little bit more context in terms of from the Conservation Commission kind of angle here. So my predecessor, Megan Shave, I think initially issued her first enforcement order to this property owner in 2020. There have been multiple enforcement orders issued in the last 4 years to this property owner, requiring that they, remove all this material, submit a restoration plan, all of those things. Obviously, nothing's ever happened. The problem has continued to get worse since I started about a year and a half ago. There's been more material added to this location in the back of 34 Herman Street. There is a waterway that runs. It's an intermittent stream that runs kind of the parcel next to 34 Herman, and in the parcel that all this debris is being pushed into, 0 Jordan Street, which is owned by the city. DPW has been out there multiple times with Megan. We've been doing site visits. We've been trying to work with the property owners for years to get this addressed, and it's very clear that they're not willing or able to do what's required to bring the site kind of back into the compliance. So about I guess it was in February of this year, we went to court, and we did get a court order requiring that the property owners go in and remove all that material and submit a restoration plan and all the things that we need. And if they don't do that, then this order also allowed the city to go in there and do the same. And at this point, it does not look like the property owners themselves will be doing this work and submit. They're not willing or able to cooperate with us. So at this point, it's the stance of the city that the city is wanting to get in there and kind of do all of this. Do all of this work, and so that entails, as Commissioner Hill detailed, a lot of just excavation, removal of all this foreign construction debris. This is debris that's mixed in with soils. There's concrete, there's metal, it's all sorts of stuff. We've seen shingles buried, tires. This is hazardous material. Anyway, so what the proposition here is, and why I've asked Commissioner Hill to be here tonight, is the city would like to be able to go into to 34 Herman Street and 0 Jordan Street and remove all of this this contractor material that's been dumped back there. Without going through and first providing the commission with a restoration plan, because we don't know what we're going to find there. We don't know what materials have been buried there. We might find Commissioner Hill's planning on doing testing of the material after it's excavated to see if there's asbestos or other hazardous materials in there, and that will change what would be required of a restoration. So I think the proposal here is to have get the commission's approval to allow DPW to enter the site, install erosion control around the limit of disturbance, and start excavating the dumped material down to the original natural grade of soils. And then at that point, after we remove all of that material, then we can send people, we'll have a third party come in and do an assessment of the site after all the materials are removed, put together a restoration plan, and then we'll go through with the restoration of that site after we remove all this material. But at this point, we don't even know how deep some of this material is. To go through and try to get a restoration plan and do kind of borings, and that's going to be extremely expensive, and frankly the city does not have the funds to do all of that. So the hope is the commission will allow DPW to go in and remove all this fill, and then down the line we will then submit a restoration plan. So I guess that's kind of where we are. I'm finished for now.
I think my biggest question is, so you're suggesting that it be done without filing an NOI?
Well, I mean, an enforcement order does not require the filing of a notice of intent. In fact, Mass DEP is not recommending when you issue an enforcement order that you require the applicant to, or not the applicant, but the perpetrator to file a notice of intent. And there's some reasoning behind that. But in general, an enforcement order is its own legal mechanism that can be enforced, and you can require just the restoration plan to be provided to the commission for approval without the filing of a notice of intent.
Would the property owner be held liable for the cost of the actual removal?
Yeah, so currently there would be a lien put against the property, but that's not something that we can get that money up front. And so currently it's just we don't have the money currently, the city, to begin that work. That's why we're in court today to attempt to get some funds just to begin this process, because the estimated cost that was spoken about today in court was somewhere between $60,000 and $100,000 for this project. So to properly manage all the materials and things, it's going to be an expensive process, but we're just hoping to get the ball rolling and to do the first step, which is removal of all that potentially hazardous construction material from the site. So at this point, we're just hoping that the commission will consider and allow DPW to go in there, kind of working with me to go and I would make sure that we have erosion controls installed, supervise that, and then potentially be on site as materials being removed down to like the pre-existing grade.
Commissioners, any questions?
And making sure that the material is disposed of properly.
Yeah, I know.
That's a Commissioner Hill thing, so he'll be handling that for the city.
All through my mind, I'm thinking of all the best management practices that really should be in place for something that's going to be this heavy equipment that's fairly close to a resource area that really needs to be, under specific guidelines. And will we have a list of maybe practices that will be put in place, or I just don't know how this works with a municipal.
Yeah, I think we could certainly put something together before this. I mean, because we're not planning on doing this at the absolute earliest would be sometime in January. So we've got some time. We could certainly put together something maybe before the next meeting in January, kind of a list of these are the things that we will be doing, installing erosion controls, making sure heavy equipment's not parked within the 100-foot buffer zone. We can put together a series of kind of things like that, best management practices that we want to make sure are involved or implemented for this removal work. That's something that Pat and I can work together with over the next couple of weeks and get something to the commission perhaps next month.
Do we need oversight by anybody? Any DEP or
So
Elise? No?
DEP has been out to the site before, and in general, they kind of just said, "Hey, if this is something you can handle locally, you should handle it locally." They don't tend to get involved in as large as this seems to us. This is a pretty small scale infraction on the state level, so DEP doesn't generally get directly involved unless it's a much larger kind of infraction. So the problem, from my perspective, is this is something that's been ongoing for maybe a decade, and the property owner has proven that they are not willing or able to do anything. And I think and this may sound crass, but no matter what DPW does out there, it's gonna be an improvement to the way that the site is currently being treated and all the material that's just there. So it's my kind of perspective that I would prefer to get this just to start removing the material and get the ball rolling, because this could easily be another thing that just stands there and exists for another 10 years if we don't try to proactively get this moving.
And to quickly answer the question, I mean, all the material that is going to be removed from there is going to be brought to a specific site and covered for testing. As for the reporting, anytime we get any kind of soil testing done, we do it through approved labs through the DEP. All the reporting goes to the DEP. Certainly, if something spikes, if there's asbestos, if there's PCBs or something hazardous in that material, we're going to have to file with them anyway. So everything will be managed above board, and everything will be going to the same one exact site, and it'll be covered. So, I mean, it's a pretty basic exercise. It does require a lot of permitting. Typically, require a lot of permitting ahead of schedule. We're not in a position to kind of wait for that. We've been waiting a long time. But we see this a lot during construction where, soils are identified through borings, they're removed, stockpiled, covered, inspected, tested, and then sent to the appropriate dump site. So it's a very expensive venture, as Kyle has said. I explained to the judge today that, if this is solid waste, it's $90 a ton. If this is, waste that has been cross-contaminated with asbestos, it's $250 a ton, and it has to go to Ohio. So we're hopeful that it's something we can, get rid of locally, and most of it's just trash and debris. But I have seen a lot of construction debris sites that have asbestos in them because a lot of the aggregate that was used years ago had asbestos in it. So
the biggest concern for me personally is just because it's close to a resource area.
Yeah.
If it was in the middle of a field somewhere, I probably wouldn't even care. Well, I would care, but not as much.
Well, I mean, every time it rains, it's just sifting through that debris and going out to that stream. So
absolutely. So that's why if we can have a, kind of a best management practice thing that will be in place, that would be wonderful for us to review. That would be great.
Yeah, we can put something together and maybe get that submitted to the commission before next month's meeting.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Do we need to vote on anything now? No.
No, I don't think so. I just wanted to make sure this was something that the commission would entertain, and then once we submit that kind of best management practice list that we will incorporate at that point, it may be that may warrant a vote.
Appreciate that. You okay with that, Commissioner Hill?
I'm 100% fine with it, and we'll be as we manage and remove, we'll be keeping track of everything. So if at the end of this whole process, I'll have some form of a report to provide you guys.
Maybe you'll find buried treasure.
Somehow I doubt it.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming and elucidating all of this stuff for us. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Happy holiday. Okay. Now back to, thanks, Kyle. Where are we? Now we're back to the card filings, right?
Yes.
45 Industrial Boulevard.
Yeah. Let's see if Scott Faria is no longer in. No, maybe he's still a panelist though. Oh, he is. All right. He's still around.
I'm still here.
Thanks a lot for hanging in there.
You don't want to keep Commissioner Hill online all night waiting to hear everybody else talk. So not a problem at all, Madam Chair. Good evening again, Madam Chair, Commission members, Scott Faria from Holmgren Engineering. Here tonight for a project that we've had before you, you folks a few times, a addition to a industrial boulevard on Industrial Boulevard in Brockton. And it's the former Zoots facility. It's now run by a company, Bay State Linen, and they're looking to put on a 65,000 square foot warehouse addition on their property. Along with that, they're putting a series of loading docks behind the building, kind of cleaning up their existing facility, which right now is small for their use and doesn't have that many loading docks that they really need to grow their business as they're attempting to do. So we've had a filing, as I said, with you folks for well over a year now, I believe, and we've gone back and forth with Beta a few times, and I think we're now at the point where we're pretty much down to just a couple of items that we were hopeful we could get a conditional approval on tonight, Madam Chair. There was a few items that I'm sure Kyle will bring up, but one in particular that I wanted to mention to the commission at the rear of the existing building, where we're putting some additional parking for the loading dock space. We have our BVW associated with the Salisbury River, and we're putting in a retaining wall to help with the grading. The grading really slopes off to the river. We're putting in a retaining wall that's right up against the 25-foot buffer zone. So we've
Is
proposed.
there a map? Do we have a map that we might see, either Kyle or Mr. Faria, either one?
I can try, or you can call it up if you'd like, Kyle.
Yeah, I think I've got the most recent plan set, Scott. This was in the most recently submitted materials to Beta.
Yep. Yeah, sheet number 10, I think, would be the best one, Kyle. It's a landscaping plan, but it'll speak directly. Yeah, there you go.
Sediment and erosion.
It's sheet number C9.
Okay, yep.
The dark gray is the new stuff.
Yep. So as you can see, the light gray rectangle is the existing building. The darker gray area around that existing building is the proposed building with our loading docks and parking area, along with a substantial drainage area and all of those improvements that Beta has gone through and reviewed. But the area I wanted to speak about was about halfway down the existing building, alongside the 25-foot buffer zone. For the edge of pavement, we have to install the retaining wall. The retaining wall is right up against the 25-foot buffer zone. Realistically, there's no way we're going to be able to build that retaining wall without stepping into the 25-foot buffer zone during construction. So what we're asking for is for the commission to allow us to work temporarily. It ends up being about 200 square feet of temporary work we would have to do. The wall is going to be outside of the buffer zone. It'll just be grading on the backside of the wall. As I said, just temporary work, about 250 to 300 square feet. And as mitigation for that, we've proposed a buffer zone enhancement plan, which is the area. I don't know if you can zoom up a little bit, Kyle.
It looks like a shoe. the
Yeah,
bottom?
exactly. Yeah, kind of a little oval area there. So that's a 1,500 square foot restoration area, just to kind of mitigate the 300 square foot temporary work in the buffer zone. So, and again, that buffer zone work is just to the left and to the right of that restoration area. It'll just be temporary as they put in the retaining wall. And then that'll be put back in its natural state. And we'll have this 1,500 square foot restoration area just to enhance that area. So we're hoping for the commission's agreement on allowing us that work in the 25-foot buffer. We certainly understand why you folks have that policy in effect, and we always try to honor it. And you can see in this case, we really have, with the layout of the driveway and the building. We're doing our best to honor that 25-foot. But in this case, in order to get the trucks that need to arrive at 45 Industrial Boulevard, in order to get them safely around the building, we have no choice but to just do that temporary work. So we're hoping for permission from the commission on that.
How tall will that retaining wall be?
It's gonna be about 3 feet tall on the backside. It'll be a 3-foot high wall. And again, the reason we need it, it's a pretty steep slope from our lot heading down to Salisbury River. So we just don't have if we were allowed to work all the way up to the river, we could make the grades work and have a safe 3-to-1 slope getting all the way down to the river. But by putting the wall in pretty much along that entire length of the driveway, it limits the impact on the existing topography out there, and allows us to limit the amount of buffer zone impact we'll have.
Kyle or Elise, I'm not sure if you want to speak to either one of these. Do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, I'll let Elise go.
Perfect. So Scott, great summary. Essentially, as far as where we're at on the status of the peer review, it's kind of boiled down to two things kind of beyond that 25-foot temporary items, which, up to the commission. One of them was we had asked that a revised plan be provided for the sake of correcting an elevation on the stormwater basin that's at the far bottom hand right corner. The actual stormwater calculations themselves has been corrected, so it's just a matter of having everything match. So just the literal number change, and then just having the plan be stamped. So it was originally stamped during one of the revisions. It wasn't stamped, so we just wanted to have that be stamped by both the PE and the PLS. So easy enough. The other remaining item was, and this is something that we've deferred to the commission. So essentially, as far as the stormwater standards go, part of the project is redevelopment, and that includes that stormwater basin that's in that bottom right-hand corner of the screen.
Can you hold on one second?
Yep.
I don't know who's Kyle. Are you controlling this?
I'm controlling the screen.
Can you just point out where that stormwater basin is?
Yeah.
Is it right up against the river? Oh,
yes.
Yeah, right here.
Yep, that guy right there. Yep. So essentially, that's an existing stormwater basin, and so as part of one of our comments we had just requested that the applicant review the potential, evaluate the potential for additional improvements, which would, basically be removing accumulated sediment and increasing the elevation of the basin floor. Basically, we're deferring to the commission to decide if the applicant has provided enough evidence that they have met the redevelopment standard to the maximum extent practicable. And I can, I'll defer to Scott if he wants to expand on that more. But essentially, it's up to the commission on if that redevelopment standard has been sufficiently met in their opinion.
I think we were under the assumption that we were talking of the basin on the other side of the building, Elise.
Okay, yep. That might have
Everything
been
else you
a,
said,
yep.
right.
Yeah, yep.
Be
I
sheet
was
number, I think
combining
the
the two.
fourth sheet, Kyle, has
Yep.
the,
Oh, it's a different sheet?
yeah, yep. Just because it's existing conditions and
Yep. Thanks for the correction, Scott.
it's the first time I've ever corrected you. So, yeah, either that plan there would do it, Kyle.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's basically the existing facility. That the building that you're seeing the corner of, that's the existing building, the big existing parking lot, and that's the existing drainage facility that was approved. I
That's the
believe.
detention pond? Is the
Yeah, it's a
detention pond?
detention pond. Yeah, from the 80s, basically. That whole parking lot drains into that detention pond. And to Elisa's point in Beta's review, the detention pond has not been maintained. Unfortunately, before stormwater management came into effect, nobody paid attention to operation and maintenance plans that we put forth. Nobody paid attention to the conditions that conservation commissions or planning boards would put forth in their approvals of these jobs. Currently, when we do a job like this, we have to, during construction, we have to do weekly inspections of the site. And after construction, as part of your ongoing conditions, we typically do 6-month inspections of the drainage facilities. Back then, it wasn't required. And to be honest, we didn't do them. So our contention on this basin here is that it's been working fine. There's no known issues at all. It's horribly overgrown. You can barely see that it's a detention basin. We would like to, as part of the current operation and maintenance plan that we submitted to go along with the notice of intent, we would like to include this obviously in the maintenance, have the chance to go in there, remove the thick vegetation, remove the trees that are growing there, and then ongoing maintenance will provide for a much better functioning basin than what's going on there now. In addition to that, we've also to kind of meet the standards in the stormwater management, we've also reduced the amount of water that's going to that by adding a couple of landscaped areas alongside the building and by regrading the driveway along the building. So a larger portion of the driveway will go into our new drainage facility and not into this one. So we've lessened the amount of both impervious surface and the amount of runoff going to the basin. So we were hoping with that, we wouldn't have to reconstruct the entire basin, basically rip everything out. We'd have to stump it, grub it all out, and then put the foot of material down that Beta was suggestion. We were hoping we would just be able to clean it up and maintain it going forward. But as Elise said, that's I think it's more of a commission call than anything else.
Kyle, do you have any particular?
Well, no, I've just got a question. So at least the comments that Beta made were for the new stormwater feature on the other side of the building. Is that correct?
Relating to the redevelopment standards, the correction on the elevation of the berm in between the sediment forebay, that is for the other sediment basin.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. For the proposed the new basin.
The proposed one, yeah, the new one.
Yep.
All right, can you say that again? So the elevation inclusion was for the new basin on the other side of the building. It's not shown now.
Correct.
Okay, and then the question about the redevelopment was for this basin that we're looking at currently. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah.
In the other basin, you know, we agree with Beta's comment. We did make that change, but I didn't want to submit the revised updated plans to you folks this week, a couple days before the meeting. So I do have them. I could send them to you now, but I'll certainly send them to you tomorrow. That show that adjustment on the plan, as Elise said, the calcs were fixed. It was just the plan. That number wasn't changed on the plan. So I'll submit those plans tomorrow, so you'll have them. So again, to go back, so I think there were 3 issues. That was a minor drafting issue.
Yeah.
We certainly took care of that. The second one was the temporary work in the 25-foot buffer that we're asking for the commission's permission to do that. And then the third issue is our back and forth, I guess, as to Beta's idea as to what to do to the basin and our ideas to what to do to the basin. So I think those are the, at least in my opinion, the three outstanding items that we need the commission's decision on.
I have a question about the retaining wall.
Sure.
What is it made out of?
It's a block wall, like, a regular landscape block wall.
Concrete?
Yeah, they're concrete blocks.
Okay.
Yep.
Scott, how deep will the retaining wall have to be excavated down? I know you said 3 feet up. How deep do you have to dig within the 25 buffer zone there where you'll be working?
Just a couple feet till we hit suitable soil. Probably not even a couple feet, but say 2 feet max, just until we get rid of the loam and the subsoil and get on suitable soil to start building it up from there.
Understood. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Clay, you'd said the retaining wall was somewhere between 200 to 300 square feet, I think is what I have in my notes.
The disturbance, we've got two separate areas that will be within your 25-foot buffer zone, and it totals about 250 square feet. I think it's 100 to the left as you're looking at the screen, 100 to the left of that restoration area, and about 150 or 200 feet to the right. So it's a total of 300 square feet of temporary work in your 25-foot buffer.
Okay.
I would recommend that the commission consider each one of these things individually. So maybe we should specifically be considering the retention wall and the proposed work that would be within the 25-foot. Is that something that the commission would agree to as part of this development?
What would you do as far as protections for the resource area if you were going to be working right that close to the resource area?
Well, we're going to be about 20 feet away, so it's not like we're right on top of the resource area. It's just we can't make the 25-foot buffer that we typically do. So we're still going to be at least 20 feet away, but we would have our typical erosion control method, our straw wattle out there to protect it from any erosion. That work itself isn't going to take all that long, and immediately thereafter it'll be seeded, and we'll make sure that there's no erosion once we're done with construction right away. It'll be stabilized right after construction, Madam Chair. So again, it's probably 20 feet from the actual resource area.
But you'll have heavy equipment in there to be able to excavate, right?
Well, the heavy equipment will be basically on the upland side.
Yeah.
Working over it. So the backhoe that'll be used will be on the building side of it, Madam Chair.
Oh.
So it'll just be the bucket and then a couple of guys down there with rakes to smooth it all out.
Commissioners? Kyle or Elise, I'm kind of at a loss as far as is there an alternative way to do this?
Well, so I'm less familiar with the review of this project, so I will throw this over to Elise in a moment. But just in general, from what Scott has said, to make the grades work, to allow the trucks access here, the retaining wall allows there to be a larger discrepancy between the elevation that the trucks are on and down where the area within that buffer zone there, right? So the retaining wall allows there to be, we're not trying to do a steady grade down, which that the retaining wall actually allows more of that buffer zone to be preserved, rather than if they don't use the retaining wall to make this site work, they would have to go all the way down, much closer to the actual resource line, the waterway back there. So, this may be the best that they can do, and then that's kind of what the implication is here from Beta's review and their back and forth with Scott's firm. This is probably to make the site work, this is probably the best that can be put forth. It's just kind of my thought. Is that kind of in alliance with your review, Beta's review, at least?
Yeah, and I think the key thing here to remember is that as far as the 25-foot goes, the retaining wall itself isn't gonna actually be within the 25-foot. What they're really the only work is just that temporary short time period to make sure that they can put the wall in. So at the end of the day, the wall actually, it's not gonna be in the 25-foot. The only work will just be temporary, which is typical for that type of work.
Thank you for including that. It's a good point.
It's been a while. She'll bear with me if we've asked this and gone over it because why not? Sorry, going back to my notes. The restoration area is 1,500 square feet, and that sounds, like, if I remember right, very good considering the disturbed area is 300 square feet. That's 5 times the amount of what the disturbed area is.
Yep, that's correct.
And I think I can kind of read some of the plantings that are there, but I guess
We've got, I can tell you, we've got 3 sweet pepper bush, 2 arrowwood, and 6 high bush blueberries.
Okay.
So, commissioners, everyone okay with the work near the 25-foot?
I don't have any more questions.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have any more questions. I'll just say, I guess, I'm sure it's going to be in there. Just make sure when the retention wall was built, any material excavation, any whatever is just, properly docked outside of the buffer zone and also disposed of properly outside of the buffer zone and work area.
It certainly will be.
Okay, that's one. What was the next one?
Yeah, I'll bring the other plan up. So the other one would be the
Detention basin?
Yeah, this is the old retention ponds here, and the question is, it might be more eloquent if Elise were to kind of rephrase this, but we're looking at the existing detention ponds here. Does the commission think that the applicant has proven that they have brought this redevelopment up to the most practical extent possible as far as the redevelopment for this portion of the development here? Elise, you want to say that better than I did?
No, you did great. It's basically, is the commission satisfied that they have met the standard, right? They have made any improvements they possibly could to the existing detention basin. So it's essentially up to the commission to decide, have they done so? The system works. It's just that it's about if there's any updates that the commission would like to see, or if there's any more that could be possibly made.
And Elise is 100% right. To be honest with you, there's always improvements that could be made. To anything. So, obviously we don't want to put our client on the hook to spend more money if it isn't needed. In our opinion, the basin works. It's functioning properly. There's never been any issues at all. Over 40 years of use. It's just that it hasn't been maintained, needs to be cleaned, and either way, whether you agree with me or agree with Elise, I guess we'll say, either way, it's going to be maintained as part of your order of conditions. So going forward, it's going to get that routine maintenance and the routine inspections to ensure that it doesn't stay in its current state. Our only point is, as I said, it's working fine, and we're actually reducing the amount of both impervious area and of runoff going to it. So we've lessened the impacts on the basin. So
how was it that you reduced the impervious area if you've increased parking and increased building size?
Because everything else is going to the new infiltration system in the new detention basin. off to the right of this sheet. So we took a little bit of the driveway behind the building that previously had been going to that basin, and we shifted the grading, added a catch basin, and got it to go to our new basin. So we've reduced the amount of impervious surface going into this basin.
And then that detention pond area will be cleaned up, and that's all part of your plan? Is that in your, okay.
It is. It's part in the O&M document. Yes.
Yep. Okay. I have no problem with that. I don't know if other commissioners.
I have no problem with it. I agree. Like if it's working right now and it sounded like it would take a lot to update it, that it make more sense for it to be cleaned and well maintained. And it sounds like it's gonna get less flow into it. So that also again, if it has a little less flow in it, sounds like less chance that's gonna be an issue. So to me, it feels like it's good.
Great. Thank you.
As long as, yeah. Kyle, how do you feel about that? Good with that?
You're muted.
Thank you. Ultimately, sorry about that. Ultimately, this is the commission's decision. Maybe it might be worthwhile to hear, because I don't know what improvements Beta is thinking could be done here, because it's hard for the commission to make a decision if we're not weighing both options, right? So at least could you maybe talk about if the commission were to decide that additional things could be done, what does that even entail? Like, what would that involve?
Yeah, so essentially, and this is part of where, as part of our comment, we had asked for an evaluation to see if an improvement, like say changing the base elevation of the basin, if something like that would be an improvement, right? Because we don't know until it's evaluated. So it's kind of looking at that potential. So it's kind of not necessarily subjective, but when it comes to that redevelopment and if it's being met, that's where it's been deferred to the commission ultimately.
Okay. You change the basin. Do you mean to make the detention ponds deeper, or I'm not sure what you mean by change the base elevation.
So I'm not an engineer. I can't go too much more into depth aside from kind of what I've heard in discussions. I know that as part of our comment, we had just requested an evaluation of the potential things that could be done. And so there was one thing thrown out, which is a change in that the elevation of the actual basin itself, and seeing if adding adding a layer of sand, if doing some of these small changes could make a difference, or if it even would, right? So that's where we kind of had requested the evaluation. However, it's a redevelopment project, right? So it's to the maximum extent that's practicable. So it's up to the commission to decide, what is practicable in this situation.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so ultimately, train of thought lost, but still ultimately it's up to the commission on that one. So I kind of feel like I'm going in circles, but I can't necessarily, tell you one way or the other what to do.
You may be going in circles, but I feel like I'm blind.
Yeah. The one thing that Beta did mention was it says increase in the elevation of the basin floor through the placement of sand to provide more separation to the groundwater. We really can't increase we can't raise the elevation of the floor of the basin because all of the existing infrastructure, all the existing drainage is going there, and the pipes going into the basin are pretty much at the floor of the basin. So if we raise let's just say we put a foot of sand at the bottom of the existing basin, we can't raise the pipes a foot. They're pretty much right at minimum now. So, in all of these cases when we design a basin, and this is even going back 40 years ago, we never have room to play with. It's just everything is always right at the minimum. If you need 2 foot separation to the groundwater, you've got 24 inches, not 34 inches. It's always exact. And then the pipes, you need a 0.5% minimum pitch on a pipe. We give you 0.5%. We just don't have the room to build in any fluff in any of these jobs. So in this case, that's the one other reason in that we felt like we just couldn't make it happen, just because we don't have the ability to raise the elevation of the pond.
Okay.
So if I may just jump in here, so I guess that the commission should be considering with that language for the redevelopment, are we comfortable saying that this is the maximum extent practicable for the redevelopment of the stormwater basin? What Scott has kind of outlined here and proposed on the plan, or would the commission be more comfortable if there was a formal evaluation done that would then provide information on yes or no? Again, this is not going to be a free service. This is going to cost money, about whether or not there could be improvements done to these drainage basins. And is that beyond what is practicable for this redevelopment project? And that's the question that we're ultimately throwing at the commission.
It's a big footprint, and it is, I mean, there's a lot of potential for more storm events, certainly. I don't, is it possible to just see what happens once everything is all cleared out and cleaned out and evaluate after that? Or,
I mean, in my opinion, and obviously I'm probably not unbiased, so it's nothing's going to change after construction. It's just a matter, I think, to Elise's point, whether it's working better. But it's working fine now, so you're not going to notice a difference whether we do it my way or Beta's way. You're really not going to notice a difference. The water that's being discharged out of the basin, dumping into the river, eventually, that could be cleaner coming out of that, but you're not going to notice the difference in working condition. And as I said, we can certainly do the studies and mounding analysis, but we can't. The best we can do is limit the amount of water going to that basin by redirecting it. We can't fix the basin because we have 1, 2. I'm just trying to count quick. I think we have 4 catch basins and probably 3 outlet structures that are right at the bottom of the basin. We can't raise those structures because you need almost 3 feet of cover over the drain pipes. And that's exactly what we have, is that minimum cover. So we don't have the opportunity to raise the basin. It just physically, we can't do it on site without ripping out the entire parking lot and regrading the whole site. There's just not an opportunity to redo the basins. So again, we felt like if we reduce the area, increase the landscaping, that was an improvement over what's going there now.
to the maximum extent possible?
Well, I mean, again, it's certainly that's a subjective thing. I know. I'm going to say we took out 200 square feet of pavement. You could say, well, make it 2,000 square feet. We added 500 feet of landscaping around the building. You could say add 5,000 square feet. I mean, it's, to the maximum extent practicable is my opinion and your opinion. So in our opinion, we've met that.
I'd like to make a comment. Scott, you also said that the existing detention pond is doing what it was proposed to do, but it hadn't been cleaned or maintained, which you had stated that you would clean and maintain it from now on. Plus the addition of the second retention pond, which was designed to take the pressure off this existing detention pond. So I think, in my opinion, you've met the criteria that's necessary for this this building. But I would definitely want maintenance of both ponds and especially cleaning out the existing one.
Yep, we certainly agree with that. And as I said, that'll be an ongoing condition for going forward. So, and we would get those reports both to the planning board and to the commission. Those inspections.
Thank you. Thank you, Peggy. Lily, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I would just agree with what Peggy was saying, especially since it sounds like since they can't raise it without whipping it all up and it's right there by that 25-foot, 50-foot, 100-foot buffer zone, it sounds like it would be a lot of impact just to improve it. And if it's working as it should and it's getting less water because we have the new one and they're going to maintain it and stuff, I think overall I feel like it's less of an impact to just leave it as is with the improved maintenance and cleaning than trying to make them spend money, see if it would be an improvement. And if, they'd have to whip it up to make that improvement, it sounds like that would take a lot of time and again, it's within the 25-foot, like the very edge of it, just from how it looks. It sounds like that would just be a really big impact that I'd rather avoid.
And what was the third? Ruby, and by the way, Ruby, any questions? Or Justin?
No, I tend to agree with Peggy and Lily, and I guess, there's no other way, right? Other than, like Lily said, like now you're going to be within it, having them dig something up. Now you're in the buffer zones, and it just seems like this might be the only alternative, I guess. It sounds like.
Are you suggesting though testing of some sort, right? Or evaluation?
I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I'm a little bit overwhelmed and just trying to make sense of what the best thing is to do based on Beta's report and then based on what Scott's saying. They both are making really good points on things, but as far as the commission and us doing what's best, it's kind of hard to make that decision when there's still a question of the detention pond and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm just trying to make sense of it all a little bit so that we can make the right decision moving forward.
If I may, Madam Chair, the final thing, because there were kind of three outstanding issues. The third thing was including the proper elevations on the new stormwater feature to the other side of the building. So we don't have those final plans now, and I know that generally the commission does like to have the final plan set in hand before they vote to issue an order of conditions. So it may be worthwhile to continue this to the next month. That way we can A, have the full complete plan set to approve, and then B, the commission can have a little bit more time to consider if they think that this older detention pond meets that standard of the maximum extent practicable for the redevelopment. That may be an option just to consider.
I think that sounds perfectly good.
All right. I certainly understand it. It's a lot of information and I understand giving it more time. As far as the plan change, it was literally one number. I mean, you could call it a typo on the plan that just needs to be fixed. I don't know that it's worth holding things up for another month. Ultimately, it's not a big deal. We're going to tech review in a month. We've got to go through the site plan process, so it doesn't matter. I don't know if it's worth another item on the agenda to go through the same argument a month from now and just over that one typo for the third issue. The other two, they're the same issues. I'm not going to have a different argument on January 22nd than I have today, and I don't think Beta is going to have a different argument. It's just up to you folks, but I certainly do understand it's a lot of information to take in. it could help.
Personally, I would like to just, if it's possible, just to continue till next month, just so that way we have a little more time to digest everything,
Understood.
have the final plan set.
That would be fine with me then, Madam Chair.
Okay. And commissioners, I entertain a motion to continue till the January 22nd meeting.
I'll make a motion to continue 45 Industrial Boulevard to the January 22nd meeting.
I second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Talbot, aye.
Worse, aye. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Okay. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, but I have one more that I'll be on later, but in case I lose electricity, happy holidays.
Okay. Let's see. Next item on the agenda, 82 Ames Street.
Yeah, so I can give a quick update. I don't see anyone from that property online tonight. Last month we spoke about this and we agreed to set up a teleconference with Beta. That was outside the original scope for their review. So Beta supplied me with a revised, an amended scope and fee. The applicant funded that. So now we're just in talks about when people are available to actually schedule that teleconference. So there's really nothing else to discuss about this project. So I recommend a continuance to next month, and hopefully we will have had that teleconference by then, and the applicant can provide Beta with the revised comments and everything.
That'll be great. Thank you. So we just will vote to continue that one?
Yes.
Okay. Entertain a motion, please, to continue 82 Ames Street to the next meeting.
Entertain a motion to continue 82 Ames Street to the January 22nd meeting.
I second.
Motion seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to continue 82 Ames Street. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
And Boris, aye. Okay, that passes. Thank you. And let's see, number 9 was continued. Number 10, 940 Belmont Street. That's stormwater. Stormwater gives me a headache.
Yeah, I'm going to promote Terry Reynolds, who's the representative and I believe maybe engineer on this project. And then also, this is, well, I'll let kind of Terry speak to the concerns, but there's also a stormwater issue with the same type of thing we were just talking about with the redevelopment. So they're looking for some insight from the commission as far as how to move forward with the review.
Okay, this is with Beta as well, correct?
Yes, this is with Beta as well. Yep.
Hi, I'm Terry Reynolds. T. Reynolds Engineering, working with Acela Engineering for the Brockton VA at 940 Belmont. And so I was hoping to talk in regard to, we have a notice of intent filing for the project, which is basically paving on the south end of their campus. And if I can I share the plan?
Yeah, you should be able to. Let me know if you are unable to.
All right. So this is the south end of the campus. This is basically their maintenance facility. And it currently consists of their storage garage, laundry, boiler, water tower, etc. And this is where they operate all the maintenance for the entire VA facility out of. So what's out here right now is it's surrounded by the wetlands, as you can see with the blue wetland delineation lines. We have portions of the site that are within the buffer, some that are actually extend into the 25-foot, which you can see right here and down in here. And then just a small corner over in here. These areas have, this site was built in the 50s. And these areas have historically been ongoing operational areas for the facility since its beginning. So what they're hoping to do is to, this in the past has been paved, and Beta's review, you know, they did come out and they saw it, they confirmed the wetland lines, and they confirmed what is here, which is degraded gravel. And you can see remnants of asphalt and concrete out here. It's basically a packed gravel surface in all these areas here and here, throughout in here. And so what the VA would like to do is to basically would like to just bear with me if I can move something here. There we go. Is to basically, it's a repaving project. So what they want to do is they want to pave these areas. They're going to reduce the impacts, pulling it out of the 25-foot buffer zone in this area here, a little bit in this area. And in doing so, going to add some water quality improvements, adding a biofiltration swale in this area, another one in this area, and a vegetated filter strip in this area. And then we have what you could call sediment basins, sediment forebays here and here. These are currently, this one here is just a riprap forebay before it goes into what originally was a drainage channel, which has become a wetland along this edge of the perimeter. The VA, you know, basically developed these areas, and then the wetlands developed around after the facility was built. So at this point, what we want to do is pave these areas and then add some water quality. Under the current condition, because it is all gravel, you have stormwater runoff coming off of all these areas that go directly into the wetlands. Here, this entire portion of the site from here up into here all comes and just dumps into the wetland right here, directly off, and there's no water quality treatment whatsoever there. Same thing over here. This area is currently packed gravel, and it extends right to the very edge of that wetland right there, and it all just sheet flows right into the wetland. So with these improvements, basically they're getting green buffers between all the wetlands here and here, vegetating these basin areas before they discharge into the wetlands here, creating a final sort of finishing basin area here, where this water quality brings the water here, all comes down, goes into the swale, and then comes into what we call maybe a finishing basin forebay right here before it can go into the wetland. These are all intended because we consider this should be considered as a redevelopment project. Beta's review in going through the stormwater regulations, they interpreted that basically impervious area does not include gravel. And in the listing of defined impervious areas, well, what's defined for redevelopment is a no net increase in impervious area. In this case, we contend that this is a decrease in the impervious area. We're pulling back these compacted gravel areas, which are essentially impervious. When you look at runoff ratios for surfaces, you have pavement that has a runoff coefficient of 98 out of 100. Compacted gravel has a runoff coefficient of 96 out of 100. They are essentially the same. There are situations where you have gravel that does take water, but that's not a compacted gravel, and it's not an industrial site such as this. So one of the things that I have done is I have spoken with DEP in the Southeast region, and basically, you know, had a conversation regarding this, and they've brought it to their entire stormwater committee because it is a flaw in the regulations. They have had numerous people come in on appeal for exactly this situation, and have considered this situation as a compacted impervious surface. And so we would ask that you guys consider this the same. It is clearly a redevelopment. We have historic photography going back from its creation, and clear photography going back into the early 90s and before that show these as clearly disturbed areas that have been having ongoing use. So I just wanted to be clear in our report. We did not realize that our review actually included a review for the entire facility for a stormwater permit. So our review extends into the overall campus, which has a significant subsurface stormwater system that extends from the south and runs all the way throughout the campus to this portion, which is all of what we're redoing to bring it up to current standards and current stormwater events. This we are going to get a stormwater permit through the city for this work separately. However, the review did interpret some of this area as being regulatory. However, it is not possible for it to be regulatory. It does not discharge to any wetlands. As a matter of fact, as at the discharge point for all these improvements over here, this system is 15 feet deep. It's not possible for it to even get into any of the local wetlands in this area. It goes out to the city system. So really what we need to be focused for this notice of intent is this portion of the campus that goes into this local wetland system here. And we're asking that this be considered as a redevelopment project, not new development. And so it's an interpretation in the standards where it can be interpreted that because you have compacted gravel, that is not impervious.
So that compacted gravel was laid down when those buildings were built?
Yes, it was actually paved.
It was paved.
So this is a lot of degraded pavement, concrete throughout.
So it's called compacted gravel because,
Well, essentially it's the pavement no longer exists. It's all broken up. And right now, the current condition of it really is pretty poor for runoff quality going into the wetlands because it carries incredible amounts of sediment and everything else directly into the wetlands.
so are you actually putting in these new 4 bays or just?
These swales are all newly constructed here and over here. This is an existing stone 4-bay up in here that we're just going to add grass lining so it gets some filtration to it. And then same thing down here is just sort of adding it as a finishing basin that's grassed also. And this area is currently a gravel area that's being used for backup trailers and stuff.
Do you have anything that you'd like to add, or would you like?
No, not really. As I say, to bring it to new standards would be very difficult and costly. It would require raising the site, losing operating space. From a practicality standpoint, it's not very practicable to bring it to a new standard.
Is Kyle still here? Kyle?
Oh, I never leave, Joyce.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I've got some comments if Terry's finished with his presentation.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. So I guess the first thing is more of a general thing for the city of Brockton. So we have local stormwater standards, a stormwater ordinance for the city, and the body that governs that is the Brockton Stormwater Authority. And it's been the historical policy of the Brockton Stormwater Authority for any board or commission that does a review as part of their normal business to do a full review of the site for like on behalf of the Stormwater Authority. So there was in the most recent comment letter or comment response actually to Beta's peer review, there was some assertions that portions of this property are non-jurisdictional as far as the stormwater review goes. But it's my stance that the commission is reviewing the entire project on behalf of the Stormwater Authority. And Terry, you and I we can meet about that and potentially talk to some people, bring some other people from the Stormwater Authority in from the city and kind of figure that whole thing out. But there were some comments that weren't addressed in Beta's most recent peer review letter. So that's kind of one thing. And then the other thing, I just want to kind of summarize the kind of debate that we're having here. So it's Terry's stance that all of this the surface around the VA area here is a compacted impervious surface, meaning this would be qualified as a redevelopment project and would have like lower stormwater standards. Whereas Beta is of the mindset that this gravel surface is a pervious surface that they are now proposing to change into paved, which would be impervious. And so that would be classified as a new development, and that would they would need to demonstrate compliance with a higher kind of set of stormwater standards. So that's kind of the kind of clash here. So what Terry is looking for from the commission is some guidance as how the commission wants Beta to proceed with the review. If we want Beta to proceed under the assumption that all this area is compacted and impervious, therefore the entire or the project classifies as a redevelopment, or if the commission wants Beta to move forward with their review under the assumption that this is a previously pervious area that is now going to be repaved and become impervious, and therefore have to abide by the higher new development standards.
This one seems confusing to me because it was impervious at one time and then became degraded to crunchy, kind of partially not so impervious, and but it's really degraded impervious.
That is my contention, and I really I would highly recommend that maybe someone from the commission or Kyle consult with DEP in terms of their position on that.
That sounds fine with me. Kyle, would you be able to do that?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. This kind of didn't come to my attention until earlier today, so obviously I haven't had time to make that call. So we can certainly, I can certainly get in contact with DEP, see what their stance is. I can report back next month if that's fine with everyone, and that will also give Terry and I some time to talk about the jurisdictional authority of this review and how much of this review should be included. Yeah, and then maybe by next month we can give the commission a little bit more information, and then we can also hopefully have some clearer ideas of what the scope of this of Beta's review will actually be for the city.
That sounds great.
Kyle, could I suggest that we weren't under the understanding that it was a combined review, which is fine because we did intend on doing the overall stormwater permit anyways. But to have Beta separate those so that the commission knows what they're looking at, because this can get extremely confusing if the commission is trying to evaluate the entire site. It's a very complex site. It's very large. We're talking about huge stormwater runoff numbers.
Yeah, I'm certainly not opposed to that. So we can we'll talk more offline, Terry, as exactly how you would like that to be split up, and then we can work with Beta to make that a clear distinction between what would be generally considered jurisdictional areas within 100 feet of the wetland, and then just the more broad stormwater review for the entire site that wouldn't be jurisdictional, other than the fact that the commission is doing the review basically for the stormwater authority.
Great.
Okay, so therefore, I believe we need a motion to continue to next month.
I propose to make a motion to continue, which one is, sorry, 940 Belmont till 1/22/25 January for next month's meeting.
And
I
with
second.
with the understanding that Kyle will be able to get in touch with DEP and be able to help clarify.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Albert, aye.
Boris, aye. Okay, good. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. I think I've lost my agenda.
Link number 11 is next.
24 Intervale.
Thank you. 24 Intervale Street, parking lot improvements. This is Beta also, right?
Yeah, Beta has done this review for the commission. I've promoted Brad Holmes, who is the representative for this project.
Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR. We presented this project to the commission. It's a parking lot redevelopment project. It's an overall very good project in the sense that it actually reduces the amount of pavement and includes a new stormwater system with landscaping and fencing and whatnot. This was sent to Beta for review. We've had 2 rounds of comments back and forth. I think we're in a position that the project has been agreed upon and is ready for the commission to discuss further and hopefully take a vote.
Okay. Thank you. Elise, would you like to add anything?
No, I would agree with Brad. Ultimately, at this time, they have shown compliance with the bylaw, stormwater bylaw, as well as the act. And essentially, we just had a couple special conditions, which are or recommended special conditions for the commission to consider, which is use of a conservation wildlife seed mix in areas labeled as grass, planting of 4 different trees to make up for the lost trees as far as that work being within floodplain, and then just having any stockpiled soils, excavated materials that might happen to have to be on site just during the process be surrounded with erosion controls. But as far as the remainder of the review, they have addressed all the comments that we had.
Thank you.
Sounds very doable. Thank you.
Kyle, anything to add?
No, I have no other comments. I read through Beta's report. No comments, no questions. I think and no additional special conditions. I think everything looks good, and I'm comfortable with the special conditions that Beta has suggested.
Okay. I do see that is it 0 intervale or 24 intervale when we're actually, if we go to a order of conditions?
Well, I'll probably actually just mirror what Mass DEP has. I'm not exactly sure what they've got on theirs. 24 Intervale, I think, is the address of the business that this parking lot's associated with. But I will just mirror what DPW
We
does.
referenced it as lots 14 and 15 Intervale.
All
which
right.
is the assessor plot.
Okay, so yeah, when we issue the order of conditions, we'll use that language. But I wanted to keep the 24 interval. That's how we had the initial filing with us, just to keep it consistent. So some member of the public, we're not changing the name of it halfway through the review.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Commissioners, questions, comments? Anyone?
No, none seems to be cut and dry, based on Beta's, recommended special condition comment.
Motion to close?
Make a motion to close lots 14 and 15 Intervale Street, also known as 24 Intervale Street or 0 Intervale Street.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to close the hearing on 24 Intervale Street. That's what I'll call it. Next motion will be to issue an order of conditions.
You have to roll call vote.
Do we have the roll call?
I'm sorry. Roll call vote on the close, please. I'm tired.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Talbot, aye.
And Forsyth. Thank you. Motion, please, for issuing an order of conditions.
I make the motion to issue the order of conditions with the special recommended conditions based off of Beta's report.
I
I'm
second.
sorry.
Mhm.
I was gonna say the address is too many numbers for me at this time of night. Sorry. Is it 15, 10, 24, and 0, aka
Lots 14 and 15, also known as
15?
24 Intervale Street or 0 Intervale Street,
Oh,
apparently.
there you go.
I second it.
The motion's been made and seconded to issue the order of conditions with special conditions stated. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Talbot, aye.
And Forsyth. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night, Mr. Holmes. Thanks. Okay, 549 Copeland was continued. Let's see, 30 Intervale is continued. 0 Lawton's continued. 136 Perkins Avenue continued. Order of resource delineation. Extension request. Mr. Ferrier, you're still here.
Still awake, Madam Chair.
We're almost done.
Thank God.
This is your
Again,
last
yeah, Madam Chair, Scott Farrier, Holmgren Engineering, for a extension request, as you just said, for an ORAD that was issued by the commission back at the end of 2021. We're before you folks for this one at the last month's meeting, and most of the wetland flags weren't on the site. Kyle asked that we refresh the flags, which we've done that since the last meeting. So I think we're just hoping the commission would issue that extension.
Mhm. Kyle, were you going to go to see were you going to go to that site?
Yeah, no, so I did visit the site after the wetland flags were refreshed. And the goal of that visit was to A, confirm the flags were in place, and B, make sure that the wetlands or the bank hasn't significantly changed over the course of time that this ORAD has been active. So yeah, I can confirm that the flags have been refreshed, and the wetland like lines on the ground basically matched the plan that's been submitted. So there haven't been any significant changes. I'm comfortable recommending to the commission that the order of resource area delineation is still accurate. Therefore, the commission could consider an extension. And Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're asking for a 1-year extension. Is that correct?
Correct, 1 year.
Okay, good. Any questions at all, commissioners?
No.
And then just for
no questions for me.
Just for the record, so there were 2 different flag series that were delineated, bank and inland bank and bordering vegetated wetland. There were additional flags that were on site that the commission's not confirming. So we are just confirming the flags that are on the plan set, which are inland bank flags 5 through 12 and BVW bank. So this is the B series. So I'll say that again. Inland Bank series of flags. This is the IB series, flags 5 through 12, and then the BVW flags, which are the B series of flags 1 through 14. So those are the flags that, or the flags that were on the approved ORAD.
Okay. All that being said, I entertain a motion then to extend the ORAD for 50 Christie's Drive for those flags that were stated by Agent Holden for 1 year.
I make a motion to issue an ORAD confirming the Inland Bank 5 through 12 and the BVW B series 5 through 14 as Kyle stated.
I'll second.
So the motion to extend
For 1 year, yes.
extend for 1 year at the ORAD has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Talbot, aye.
And Boris, aye.
All right.
And then Scott, I know we're on a tight timeline for that, so I'll get that issued tomorrow. I think the deadline's not until the end of the week, but we'll get it. You don't necessarily need to have it in hand when I issue it, but it needs to be dated before the expiration day. So I'll get that done tomorrow morning.
Understood. Thank you,
Thank
Kyle.
you.
Thank you, commission members. Happy holidays to everyone.
Happy holidays.
Same to you. Happy
Thank you. Merry
holidays.
Christmas.
Holidays.
The next one is an abbreviated notice, an ANRAD for 0 Hammond Street.
Yeah, I'm promoting Evan Watson with W Engineering. We spoke about this last month. The commission requested that I go out to the site and kind of look at the. So there are 4 different kind of wetland areas that are delineated on this plan for the SANRAD, 2 BVWs, and then 2 wetland series that are that the applicant W Engineering has identified as isolated vegetated wetlands, which would not be jurisdictional. So Evan spoke to us last month about this. The commission asked that I go out on site. In the meantime, I think also since last month, Evan did provide DEP with the requested calculations backing up the isolated status of those wetlands. I did go out to the site last week, and I am just not comfortable recommending that the commission approve these wetland lines without a peer review. So that was my initial recommendation to the commission, and that's mostly because those isolated wetlands, if we confirm the plans as submitted, then those are just not jurisdictional, and we're kind of relinquishing any jurisdictional authority of what happens in and around those. That said, if they are indeed isolated wetlands, that can be confirmed by the peer reviewer, and then we'll just move forward with that. But I don't feel comfortable making that call on behalf of the commission. So I would recommend that the commission refer this out for peer review.
Mr. Watson?
Yeah, very good. I'm glad Kyle was able to get out there. As he said, I was able to issue a memo, which I did do a detailed memo which showed the calculation. It's about as close, we're charged with figuring out if there's at least a 1/4 acre foot of water. Actually, if I can share my screen, I can show you the memo that I issued to DEP. Isolated land subject to flooding means that there's at least a 1/4 acre foot to an average depth of 6 inches. So I took a look at all the topography there, and this basically just states where to look for in the regulations, because you were asking where to look for that information. And then if I just switch to the plan briefly here. Whoops. Sorry.
Yeah, those are the 2, right? The ones with the black.
Yeah, there we go. Yep. So it's on a pretty decent slope. We got elevation 130 here, and it comes all the way down to elevation 120. So about a 10-foot drop across that whole zone. And there's just a couple little low spots that's indicated by the topography. There's a little depression right here. And then when I actually looked at the surface model, it showed that there were just very small depressions with a couple inches of water that would be held there. So I was able to calculate that volume. And for the two areas, it came up with 0.02 acre feet and 0.008 acre feet. And the threshold is a quarter acre feet, so 0.25 acre feet. So we're talking an order of magnitude less than what would be required. So it's really not even close as far as what we're looking for here. I mean, it doesn't really affect anything on the site. You know, these areas are still wet. I don't think we would be looking to modify any of that anyways, because there's still going to be water coming off of this side here and flowing down here. So anything that we do, we'd still have to accommodate that, you know, if we had any drainage controls or anything else like that. But as far as determining whether or not those are jurisdictional or not, in my opinion, it's so grossly under the amount that would be required. I don't know if the results of a review would say anything different, but you know, obviously it's up to you guys to, if you're not comfortable, that's perfectly fine, you know.
If each of those, if one flows into the other, then they're no longer isolated, is that correct? Or,
So, whoops, I'm sorry. There was no stream found between the two. So there was no specific hydrologic connection that could be observed. And so, and then same thing down here, there's actually a soil change from the poor soils to the good soils. So I suspect that really any water that comes down here, by the time it gets to the road, it's starting to infiltrate into the ground. And that's why we don't see any more wetland vegetation through here. But you're right, if there was a stream that connected the two, then this would border on the stream that connects to the other one.
commissioners, questions?
Oh, I have a question for Kyle. Did DEP, after I sent them the information, did they get back to you other than to say that they received it?
So I did speak to them, but they are hesitant to weigh in on any individual project. So you know they wouldn't comment on what if they thought those were you know were enough to prove that this was not isolated land subject to flooding or not. They threw that back to the commission. That said, if I kind of may. You know, the calcs that you provided, Evan, were for that definition of isolated land subject to flooding. And my bigger concern is not whether this is defined as isolated land subject to flooding, but whether or not there are hydrologic connections between these two areas that have been flagged and any other areas that are nearby or on the other side of whatever road that is on East Street there. And as we kind of mentioned before, if there are those hydrologic connections, then these are no longer isolated vegetated wetlands, and they would be bordering vegetated wetlands potentially. And so that's the bigger concern that I have, rather than the flood storage, or not the flood storage, but the water holding capacity of these, and whether or not they should be classified as isolated land subject to flooding. And I'm just not confident that I would do a good enough job to make sure and to confirm that these are not they're not hydrologically connected to anything else nearby. So that's why I'm recommending that the commission have someone who's more experienced with this to go out there and kind of just review the site and then give kind of their opinion.
If I could offer some comment on that, I think, this project did have a previous, order on it with the delineation. These areas were delineated as BVW. So any plans that were being speculated were basically going off of that premise that these would be VW. When I had Ken go out and reflag the wetlands, his report indicated to me that they were isolated. So I wanted to do my best to have an accurate depiction on my plan. So that's why I indicated them as isolated wetlands. But given that we are having a little trouble selecting consultants and things, and just maybe to move things along, if I were to concede that these could be protected as BVWs, then I wouldn't mind doing that if that made everybody more comfortable.
I'm not opposed to that suggestion, Evan. I've not gone out and done a flag by flag confirmation of this, so I even now I wouldn't be prepared to recommend the issuance of an ORAD for this. That said, that might be something we can consider. But then taking a step back, we are actively moving through the last phases of getting that. I know you guys have heard me say this for months, but
that's all right.
we are getting close. All three of the approved firms have agreed to the contract language for the peer review for being the firms that do peer review for the Conservation Commission and Planning Board. We are now currently just routing those contracts through the city. So various city offices and department heads need to review the contract and sign it. So I'm optimistic that we are a month or two away from being able to move forward with all of the things that we have referred out for review. So just as an update, Evan, this doesn't necessarily affected this if we kind of modify this to be a BVW versus an IVW. I think that would alleviate a lot of the concerns that I have about this, making that classification change or not, identifying them as isolated. But again, I would still need to be able to go out and do the review of all the flags, and that is just a lot of work to do. And I have a lot of other things, honestly, that I'm working on. So
We
I
could
would
pay you
love
to
to
be
be
the
able to.
consultant, though. No.
I'm sorry, what?
I said we could pay you to be the consultant, but no,
All
that's
right.
okay. No, that's understanding that it is a big area. It's a big site, so that makes sense. So if it was going to go out to site to a review engineer anyways, to review the flags, I'd just assume have them take a look at those. Again, not really pushing for one way or the other, but in my mind, just from the report that I received from my wetland scientist and what I see on the plan, I'd like that to be evaluated too, if you guys are gonna go to recommend third-party review.
Do you mean that the isolated areas would be evaluated as well? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I could avoid the third-party review by giving that up, that's okay. But if it's gonna go that route anyways, I'd say why don't we review the whole thing, and that way we have an most accurate plan as possible.
Mhm. That sounds reasonable, I think.
Okay.
Commissioners?
Sounds like a good plan. That sounds like a good
Everybody
plan.
wants to go home.
And I entertain a motion then to continue until the next meeting and to refer, wait a minute, what's your address again? Hold on, I just turned the page.
Zero Hammond.
Yeah, Zero Hammond to third-party review.
I make a motion to refer Zero Hammond to third-party review and continue the meeting for January 22nd.
I second the motion.
Made and seconded, roll call vote, please.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Albert, I.
And Forsyth. Thank you. That motion passes. We'll see you hopefully next month or the month after.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you.
Christmas.
All right. Bye
Thank
now.
you. Merry Christmas.
Okay, the next on the agenda is Zero Allen.
Yeah, these next two are just a couple quick updates for the commission. We issued a notice of violation for 0 Allen Street for trash and debris located within this vacant lot. It was actually a homeless encampment. People had tents and trash bags and all sorts of things there. The update for you all is that the city received a court order allowing DPW to go in and clear a portion of this empty lot to increase the visibility and discourage people from setting up camps there. This area is within the 100-foot buffer to bank, but I spoke with the attorney that worked with the judge to get this court order issued, and I recommended that they stay out of the 25-foot riverfront area. So I did go out there and flag that area, the 25-foot riverfront area, and they are not impeding or impacting any of the riverfronts. They have done some clearing there already, but they don't plan on doing any additional clearing at this time. So this is just kind of a heads up. That's kind of how the city chose to resolve this issue. Are there any questions for me about 0 Allen Street?
No questions.
Thank you.
No.
Okay, and then the next one, if I may, Madam Chair.
29 Country Club.
Yep. So this was an enforcement order that we issued and we discussed, and the commission actually voted to ratify or whatever to make that official because I signed the initial enforcement order. So the homeowner did not attend the meeting last month. I sent a follow-up letter, or I was going to send a follow-up letter requesting they attend the meeting this month, but I ended up speaking to one of the property owners over the phone. They are willing to work with the commission, and they're just kind of a little bit concerned about I think I gave them until February to get a restoration plan to the commission. This is all new to them, and they were kind of concerned about meeting that deadline with the holidays and everything, which is understandable. So they told me they were going to draft a letter, kind of conveying all of that. A letter to the commission conveying all that information and kind of asking for another month or two on that deadline. I've not received that letter yet, but I do have the contact information of this individual, so I will follow up with them after the meeting tonight, and hopefully by next month we'll at least have a letter, demonstrating that they are willing to work with the commission, and then we can look forward to a restoration plan, by March or April, hopefully.
I would like to. If they'll come in front of the commission at some point to
Sure. Yeah, if you want them before they submit a restoration plan just to come here and kind of talk, I can also convey that to them that you would like to speak with them. Yeah.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
And then as far as the time period, are we going to give them till March or April? Like, how are we definitive on?
I've not conveyed any information to them about what an appropriate timeline extension would be. I was gonna, hopefully have a letter in hand before today to kind of see what they were proposing, see what the commission was feeling. But that's not set in stone either way. So we can have that discussion, I guess, once we have more communication from them.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to let everyone on the commission just remind you that Governor Healy's extension is until March of 2025. So I did ask Kyle, I'm not sure if we're going to have to be in person after March 31st. I'm not sure, but just so that way you have it on your radar that if that's the case, we'll be going to City Hall maybe for the meetings. Not sure.
I mean, at this point, just plan on them being in person after March, unless the extension, unless they grant another extension, which may or may not happen.
Okay. Okay. Good. Have an absolutely glorious holiday. Woohoo!
You're gonna adjourn the meeting.
Happy holidays. Oh yeah.
Second the motion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Roll call vote.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Albert, I.
Forsyth. Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you,
Merry
guys. Have a
Christmas,
happy holiday.
New
Happy
Year,
holidays.
Thanks, everyone.
Merry
happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Bye.
Bye-bye.